Chapter 281 Capturing the Beast. Under that kind of fast speed, Chen Zhang's clothes turned ragged, and his hair turned extremely messy. Seeing this scene, Hua Shangyu could not help but burst into laughter. Just as I was thinking of having a stroll, I did not expect you to come and look for me. Hua Shangyu mischievously laughed and said as she helped Chen Shang sort out his messy hair. Chen Shang, just from her casual dress, came to the realization that this woman had actually nothing to do. She was the supervisor of the Danxiang Taoyuan, yet a few years ago, she actually went to the secular world. Moreover, she also abducted a few good seedlings from the secular world to make them an alchemist. Chen Shang himself too was almost tempted by her. Sister Shangyu, why did you went to the secular world? Chen Shang asked. Of course I went there to investigate the secular world before it disappears, and also to find the reason or clue why it would disappear. However, I didn't find anything. Instead, I found you, this treasure. I'm just regretting that at that time, I didn't press hard enough, otherwise, I would have used tougher means to drag you to Danxiang Taoyuan. Hua Shangyu let out a deep sigh. Chen Shang suspected that Hua Shangyu already knew that he had yin and yang divine vein, and that was the reason why she tried to draw him to the Danxiang Taoyuan, to the point of even selling herself with clothes which would make any man's blood seethe. As her figure appeared in his mind, Chen Zhang's face slightly turned red. Hua Shangyu walked in the front and spoke while laughing, you may have to stick more closer to this sister. I'll take a look how strong are you now. While speaking, she had already rushed into the forest. Chen Shang pursed his lips, before he gave her a chase. Chen Zhang's qinggong was quite amazing. Although he had a sturdy physique, the kind of light and nimble agility he was showing was still much better than Hua Shangyu. All that could be credited to the wind power present inside the Azure Dragon true chi he was using, which turned his body a lot lighter. TLN. Qinggong equals movement technique skill. In the forest, a man and a woman were stepping on the leaves present at the crest of trees, rapidly leaping, as if they were flying horizontally to the ground. Their speed was so fast that in just a blink of an eye, they were across more than 100 zhang. Chen Shang simply could not catch up to Hua Shangyu, while Hua Shangyu secretly praised Chen Zhang's elegant yet common agility technique. Of course, Chen Zhang's speed had given her even more surprise. It was a lot quicker than she had imagined. Even after rushing for half a day, Chen Zhang's breath was not a bit unsteady. The true chi within his body was so vigorous that he had not even consumed a bit of it. This caused the onlooking Hua Shangyu to secretly praise Chen Shang in her heart. Little rascal, your strength is not bad. Your body and true chi are very formidable. Not anyone can do this, and currently, even I can't do this. Hua Shangyu suddenly slowed down to wait for Chen Shang. Shoulder to shoulder, they leapt at the top of the trees. Before, she had grabbed Chen Shang, and in a blink of an eye, they moved outside from within the fragrant city. If Chen Shang didn't have a tough body, with that kind of frightening speed, he would have been already torn to pieces. Because of that, Hua Shangyu concluded that Chen Zhang's body was very strong. Of course, Chen Shang proudly laughed and said, no wonder Lu Menger will value you so much. Alas, you have been found by someone else. The early bird truly catches the worm. Hua Shangyu helplessly heaved a sigh. Chen Shang didn't want this topic to continue, so he just said, dear sister, when can we see powerful spirit beasts? We need to go deeper. You want to catch a spirit beast, right? Do you have the profound beast bag? Hua Shangyu asked. Chen Shang originally wanted to buy, but who knew that just as he said he wanted to catch a spirit beast, Hua Shangyu arrested him and flew outside the city from the window. I don't have one. Who told you not allow me to speak and pull me? Just as Chen Shang intended to return to buy, Hua Shangyu grinned, take it, little rascal, count it as your gift. I remembered that in the secular world, you gave me a small piece of hell spirit grass. A profound beast bag was at least worth 10 million crystal stones. Moreover, it was not so easy to buy one. Since it was sent by a wealthy mistress, Chen Shang accepted it with a peace of mind. The profound beast bag and the storage pouch, with regards to their appearance, didn't seem to be any different, yet on the inside, there was rather a big difference. Hua Shangyu's complexion suddenly sank as she said in a rather serious tone, little rascal, this world is not so common as you imagine. Although you have come into contact with many powerful deans who can proudly breeze through the Qinwu mainland, you have to remember, what you've seen is just the tip of the iceberg. The Qinwu mainland, among the mortal worlds, is only a dust. You'd better put in a little bit more effort, or else no one can save you from what is about to come. Chen Zhang's heart madly pounded, as he looked at Hua Shangyu with a look of dismay, catching sight of her deep and beautiful eyes. Chen Shang felt as if he was completely seen through. You've been so close to Lu Menger and I, it is not impossible to see some more things. Don't think we are weak just because of our appearance. I and Menger are, although not the strongest in the Qinwu mainland, so long as we wish, destroying the Qinwu mainland is still something we could accomplish. Hua Shangyu's voice was very solemn, she appeared as if she was a strict senior disciplining a junior. Does Sister Menger know? Hua Shangyu nodded her head. Don't blame her. Her and my relation is not the same as the rumor suggests, our relations are very good. She let me listen to her analysis, allowing me to have a bit of an idea. Chen Shang sighed lightly, he and Lu Menger had kissed, how could she not know Chen Shang have yin and yang divine vein? Lu Menger also knew that he had a very good relations with the three tycoons of the extreme martial sect, so it was not far-fetched to associate him with the sealed Huang Jintian in the forbidden land of the extreme martial sect. Chen Shang really thought Lu Menger was too simple, but after all, she had lived for more than 10,000 years, and he sometimes got carried away and ignored this fact. However, Lu Menger was very good to him, and this was something that he was very clear about. Thinking of himself capturing the heart of a proud daughter of the heaven, a proud smile emerged on his face. Seeing this, Hua Shangyu nibbled her lips secretly. You'd rather die than change. You little rascal. Hua Shangyu gave a low spat. Chen Shang laughed and said, Dear sister, I know you are worrying that I will get confused by a beautiful woman, but don't forget, previously, you were naked in front of me, yet you could not get me, ha ha. Hua Shangyu's face became flushed as she spat a few times. Regarding this point, she could neither deny nor not admire Chen Zhang's state of mind. Chen Shang and Hua Shangyu also did not continue speaking about this matter. Chen Shang realized that his means of concealing were not clever enough, and he was completely seen through by the other party. As early as in the secular world, Hua Shangyu had already discovered that he had yin and yang divine vein. Of course, even Su Meiyao and Bai Yu too didn't expect Hua Shangyu and Lu Menger to be so formidable. Because of them, Chen Shang thought that his means of concealing were very clever, but now it backfired on him. The two women inside the ring were reflecting. Before, in the southern wasteland, Chen Shang was continuously being discovered by Lu Jia, and now listening to Hua Shangyu, they were even more skeptical. Time flew and the sky was already dark. Under a tree, Hua Shangyu and Chen Shang were baking the flesh of some demon beast. During the entirety of the day, they had failed to find any spirit beast, and they only encountered some demon beasts. After eating, take out the 100 beasts dance. If we don't use this trick, it will never work. Hua Shangyu said. At this time, her mouth was completely greasy, and seeing it made Chen Shang very much want to lick her lips. Chen Shang took out 100 beasts dan. He laughed and said, 10 should be able to attract some powerful spirit beast. The 100 beasts dan also had another name, it was called attracting beast dan. To beasts, it was very appealing, even if they were far away in another region, a spirit beast could still smell its odor. The 100 beasts dan had not been taken out for too long, yet a beast roar completely enveloping the sky had already echoed out. Hearing this roar, Hua Shangyu's tender body suddenly quivered as a look of fear completely covered her face. Chapter 282, White Tiger Family. Chapter 282 White Tiger Family. Noticing Hua Shangyu's complexion, Chen Shang hastily asked, which beast is it? Hua Shangyu just shook her head and spoke with a heavy tone, it's better to put away the 100 beasts dan, this guy isn't easy to deal with. After Chen Shang put away the 100 beasts dan, Long Shui said with disdain, it's just a white tiger, moreover, not that old. What, a white tiger? Chen Shang exclaimed with astonishment. The white tiger. The legendary god of slaughter from legends. The white tiger family is widely distributed, they are almost present in every world. However, those who can arrive at the level of a white tiger divine beast are very few. But then again, the white tiger family is nothing to be trifled with. They are very strong, each of them having extremely dense slaughter chi. Long Shui explained. Hua Shangyu closed her eyes as if she was trying to sense something. After a moment, she said, it's a white tiger in the 7th level of the true martial realm or so. If you want to nurture this spirit beast, not only would you need to have huge amounts of resources, you also have to show strength worthy for the white tiger to acknowledge you. In other words, you must beat in a fight. Chen Shang clenched his fists. It was a 7th or 8th grade spirit beast. Even if it was a martial artist who was a bit stronger than it, they would barely be able to cope with it. Spirit beasts were relatively stronger than their humans counterparts. Although spirit beasts lacked any martial skills, they were naturally born with powerful bodies and considerably powerful fighting skills. Many martial skills were based on the fighting skills of the spirit beasts. From this, it can be seen that spirit beasts were comparatively stronger than humans. Especially those who had awakened their wisdom. Encountering the white tiger is pretty good for you. These white tigers are very rare. If you are afraid, I can take you away. Decide quickly, that guy is coming. Hua Shangyu urged, the best way is to quickly finish the fight and capture this little guy. There is definitely a much more powerful white tiger around. If we disturb that old monster, we'll definitely be in trouble. Chen Shang clenched his fist and decided to just do it. Let me try, dear sister. Is the old white tiger here very formidable? Of course. Among the white tiger family, those who could bear white tiger cubs are definitely not weak. At the very least, they are in the nirvana realm. Generally, before crossing the nirvana tribulation, the white tigers will leave offspring behind. Once they cross their nirvana tribulation, they can take a human form. Hua Shangyu said. The profound beasts had the strength of extreme state and beyond were just like humans. The distinguishing level was the nirvana realm. At that time the beasts gain the ability to transform into humans. Little rascal, you should be careful. If the old white tiger is here, you're in for some trouble. It might even be a couple. If they discovered that you have abducted their cub, you will be in a very big trouble. Long Shui mischievously laughed. Chen Zhang's mouth twitched. A white tiger couple, moreover, both might be in the nirvana realm. Generally, beasts could find their companions based on the smell. If he was found out, it would indeed be very troubling. It's here, Hua Shangyu tenderly shouted, before she jumped up high into the air. At the same time, a white figure leapt over, pouncing towards Chen Shang. The white tiger was the same size as any ordinary tiger, but its fur exuded a white light. In the dark night, it appeared extremely sacred and beautiful. But after a roar filled with slaughter chi, combined with the fierce expression in its eyes, it returned to a ferocious tiger who only knew one thing, to slaughter. Chen Shang didn't show any sign of weakness. When he felt the slaughter chi emit from the young tiger, his slaughtering heart was shaken. From him, a resonating cry broke loose along with a tyrannical slaughter chi, completely enveloping the surrounding. While the white tiger was pouncing over, after it felt that dense slaughter chi, it let out a roar, but its pounce came to stop. Chen Zhang's slaughter chi made the little tiger feel a bit cordial, but also made its battle intention soar. Any descendant of the white tiger family loved to fight and slaughter. Even among their own kin, there would be countless battles. After the little white tiger roared a few times, both of its eyes glittered before it suddenly pounced again. Its speed left Chen Shang stunned and was directly pushed to the ground. Both of his shoulders were firmly held down by the two huge tiger paws. The sharp claws pierced into Chen Zhang's shoulders as he winced in pain. Bang! The white tiger's energy soared up as a powerful burst of chi came out from its claws, impacting on Chen Zhang's shoulder, making Chen Shang feel as if his bones were about to be crushed into pieces. Chen Shang clenched his teeth and did his best to endure the pain. He didn't expect the white tiger to actually be so formidable. Both its speed and power were filled with an unfathomable explosive force. If not for being in the 5th level of the immortal and devil body, Chen Shang would have been crushed to pieces by the energy released by the young white tiger. The young white tiger roared several times at Chen Shang, as if it was feeling proud for his victory. It was feeling elated because it had knocked down someone with relatively stronger slaughter chi than itself. Looking at those snow-white sharp teeth gradually approaching, Chen Shang let out a thunderous dragon roar, which suddenly released a shockwave and caused the leaves in the vicinity to rustle. From Chen Zhang's mouth, an azure aura surged out, along with streaks of furious lightning. Suddenly, a wind aura filled with destructive force directly bombarded on that young white tiger, which entered its body from its mouth, making that young white tiger burst into stuffy roars that sounds like coughing, before it released its hold on Chen Shang. Ha ha! Although Chen Zhang's shoulder were aching in pain, he could still not help but laugh at the scene in front of him. The azure dragon roar he had released surged out, and the majority of its force rushed inside the young white tiger. The young white tiger furiously roared, then once again pounced at Chen Shang like lightning. However, it was evidently slower compared to before. Just a moment ago, Chen Shang had taken a loss, so he already learned his lesson. This time, he didn't dodge, but instead smacked a palm as universal true chi surged out, which transformed into a fierce vibrational power. The shocking heaven palm struck towards the young white tiger's head. The palm had not yet made contact with the young white tiger, yet the palm force had already burst out, causing an intense shock wave to burst forth in all directions, with Chen Shang at its center. Suddenly, the nearby trees collapsed from the intense shock wave and even the ground had begun to split open. The young white tiger's body could not be considered small, yet these frightening vibrational force swept it away, causing it to collide with the close-by trunk. As its heavy body fell through the wood and onto the ground, its white fur was covered in sand. From the looks of it, the white tiger appeared to be in an extremely sorry and messy state. This guy seems to be rather simple-minded. Chen Shang mischievously laughed. A moment ago, when the young whiter tiger was struck by the azure dragon roar, its internal body had already been disturbed, preventing it from releasing its full power. If it was a human, they would have definitely eliminated the effects first before continuing to attack Chen Shang. Otherwise, their attack would be adversely affected. Hua Shangyu was also shocked again and again. Chen Zhang's strength was indeed very frightening, this kind of overbearing power was astonishing. She knew Chen Shang cultivated true qi of 5 elements, and speculated that Chen Shang could already fuse these 5 elements true qi together. Only then would he able to release this kind of invisible and colorless yet strangely terrifying true qi. The young white tiger let out a low-spirited roar. It looked extremely furious. It raised its head and gave out another roar. The earth suddenly shook as it slowly walked towards Chen Shang. With each step, the ground would fiercely tremble. However, if one looked carefully, one could discover that its 4 limbs had already left the ground. It actually was walking on air, yet still released an invisible shockwave that shook the earth. Chen Shang knew he had angered this young white tiger. If the palm he had displayed a moment ago landed on a 7th level true martial realm martial artist's head, even if that martial artist didn't die, they would definitely suffer serious injuries. Yet the white tiger actually seemed completely unaffected, besides turning furious. Chapter 283, Tiger Fist vs. White Tiger. Chapter 283, Tiger Fist vs. White Tiger. The young white tiger walked towards Chen Shang, sending tremors to the surroundings with each step, and making it difficult for Chen Shang to gather the true qi from his dantian. This left him panic-stricken. If he could not utilize his true qi, then it would be very terrible. Chen Shang slowly stepped back. His whole body was numb from the shock waves, contracting his 5 zhong and giving him an urge to vomit blood. The young white tiger was not so stupid as Chen Shang had imagined, it was just a bit impetuous. At the moment, it was using its released shockwaves to slowly torture Chen Shang. Its tiger eyes filled with pride had a look of teasing, as if it caught a mouse. This guy. Chen Shang finally could not endure as he spat a mouthful of blood. This kind of shockwaves were very frequent, moreover, they would always impact whenever he began gathering true qi, scattering it and rendering his whole body to become numb from pain. Seeing Chen Shang spat blood, the young white tiger opened its jaws, followed by an earth-shaking tiger roar. The land within the radius of several li fell into a fierce earthquake. The land began to split, mountains started shaking, and an even more intense shockwave surged out, directly impacting upon Chen Shang and sending him flying. As he flew, he continuously collided into several trees. Only someone like Chen Shang, with his terrifying body, could get up once again under this kind of situation. However, his body was intensely aching in pain. Fortunately, the black tortoise adamantine armor resisted the majority of the impact. This guy is too strong. Chen Shang just wiped the blood at the corner of its mouth, before another shockwave suddenly invaded upon him, causing him to spew blood once again, which left a sweet taste in his mouth. Hua Shangyu frowned and transmitted to Chen Shang, "You can't defeat this guy, give up, this guy seems to be stronger than I have imagined. You and that tiger are 2 or 3 levels apart, not to mention now, even if you are in the 9th level of the true martial realm, you might not be able to bear the brunt of its shockwaves. Sorry sister, just wait for a while, I have taken a liking to this guy, I'll definitely make it obediently stay in the profound beast bag." Chen Shang replied in a completely confident tone. Chen Shang, while looking at the young white tiger coming over, rather proudly and elegantly sneered, "Little guy, I'll make you pay." The young white tiger let out a lazy roar filled with disdain. It simply did not place Chen Shang in its eyes. Its roar was followed by a tyrannical step as an extremely powerful shockwave befell from the sky, landing upon Chen Zhang's head. Chen Shang spat a mouthful blood as he fell onto the ground. The young white tiger's strength was mainly because it could release these kind of shockwaves. It seemed to have grasped a mysterious skill, giving it an exquisite control over these shockwaves. The speciality of the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise was to allow Chen Shang to absorb any kind of power. Now that he had already clearly perceived the characteristics of the white tiger's shockwaves, he was now familiar with the shockwaves and its tyrannical attribute. Chen Shang operated the true qi within his body, but this time, the true qi would vibrate as it flowed. This was all due to Chen Shang making his own true qi vibrate, and through this, his true qi would become stable, even against the shockwaves. As a shockwave once again came over, Chen Shang no longer felt any kind of discomfort, because the mobilization of the true qi within his body proceeded in the mysterious way of operating of the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. It allowed him to give birth to a kind of power which could fuse together with the shockwaves invading his body. The young white tiger was surprised, then fiercely took several steps again, sending continuous shockwaves at Chen Shang. Originally, just a moment ago, it thought there was just a mistake, otherwise, how could Chen Shang be unaffected? However, now it realized that something had really changed. Chen Zhang's figure suddenly disappeared then reappeared behind the young white tiger. Suddenly, he ruthlessly spanked the young white tiger's butt with the shocking heaven palm. The shocking heaven palm's shockwaves were a lot more formidable compared to the young white tiger's, and it was filled with violence and destruction. The young white tiger loudly roared once it got struck by Chen Zhang's palm. White tiger divine fist, Chen Shang shouted as numerous silhouettes of fists flew out, completely enveloping the young white tiger. One by one, the golden tiger heads carrying violent and slaughtering aura bombarded upon the young white tiger's body, along with the continuous eruption of deafening tiger roars, overshadowing the young white tiger's roars. Little guy, I'll hit you till you give in. Since Chen Shang got this opportunity, he would absolutely not let it pass. He grabbed it a hold like a snake, deadly biting upon its prey. He would never give his enemy any breath of respite, now that he had casted the fierce storm-like attacks. Each of his punches were the white tiger divine fist, filled with monstrous slaughter chi, mercilessly landing upon the young white tiger. It was just like the scene before, when the young white tiger was relentlessly releasing shockwaves upon him. Chen Shang wasn't using white tiger true chi for the white tiger divine fists, instead, he was using the universe true chi. However, because of the slaughtering heart and the white tiger divine fists, only violent and golden tiger head fists were formed. The young white tiger's body was pounded by numerous roaring tiger heads madly, smashing throughout upon its body. Because its body was very strong, at first, it only felt slight pain, and it believed that this onslaught would very soon end. But to his surprise, Chen Shang turned out to be too abnormal, and his true chi seemed to be inexhaustible. There was no end to his attacks as they ruthlessly struck upon the white tiger's body, making it shiver. In the air, Hua Shangyu was dumbfounded as she watched what was happening, her pretty face was filled with astonishment. Just a while ago, she believed that Chen Shang would definitely give up under those kind of continuous and relentless shockwaves, yet to her surprise, Chen Shang could suddenly endure the effects of those shockwaves. Moreover, he even spanked the tiger's ass, turning the energy within the young white tiger's body chaotic. This was followed by a rising chi gushing out like a river, continuously releasing terrifying attacks. When Hua Shangyu thought about Chen Shang in the Nirvana realm and using this kind of move to fight with her, her tender body quivered. This was precisely Chen Zhang's potential. Bastard, didn't you enjoy making father spew blood? Now I'll also have a good time. Chen Shang, on one side, used his fists to madly pummel the young white tiger wailing on the ground. While doing this, he was also loudly cursing. Although it was a young white tiger, its head was still very large, however, because it was young, it was wailing. To rein in spirit beasts, a martial artist must use their own strength to deter the spirit beast, deeply implanting a fear towards oneself in the spirit beast's soul. At this moment, that was what Chen Shang was doing. Little rascal, till when are you going to hit it? Hua Shangyu could not bear to watch anymore. She felt pity for the young white tiger. Father will hit it till he is tired, ha ha ha. Chen Shang insanely laughed as his punches turned even more fiercer. As Hua Shangyu was here, he was not afraid of consuming his entire strength, he wanted to thoroughly implant a fear of him in this young white tiger's heart. The ground and the surroundings of Chen Shang have been affected, and it was so ruined that everything was just a mess. As for the young white tiger, it was lying in a pit, deeply sunken into the ground by Chen Zhang's punches that were like rainstorm. After half a day passed, the sky had already turned bright. Chen Shang too was tired, and the young white tiger's eyes were now half opened as its battle power had already disappeared. Chen Shang, while carrying its body, climbed out of the pit, then threw the young white tiger's bulky body on the ground. Chapter 284, Reining In. Chapter 284 Reining In. The young white tiger was as big as a cow. Rumor had it that in the future, it could grow even bigger. Chen Shang, thinking of himself riding on a huge white tiger, wandering in the world, felt slightly elated in his heart. It was a matter of how trendy it was, but of course, he only thought about it. He still felt that it was rather good to just keep the white tiger in the profound beast bag, and only release when fighting against someone. Chen Shang sat down on the ground, his whole body was profusely sweating. The white tiger was in even more sorry state, its whole body was dark, majority of its body had wet soil stuck upon it. Little guy, you were attracted by this stuff. Ha ha, you have still not eaten, yet you already been beaten madly by me, don't you hate me very much? Chen Shang took out the 100 beast stands, shaking them in front of the young white tiger, as he spoke while laughing. Even Long Shui, this glutton, could not resist the temptation of the 100 beast stand, let alone this inexperienced young white tiger. The half-opened eyes of the young white tiger was indeed filled with fury, but then it was also became full of fear for Chen Shang. As it thought getting beaten by Chen Shang for half a day, its eyes suddenly became moist. This little guy seems to be a female, you are not very kind. Long Shui mischievously laughed and said. Tigress. Chen Shang laughter turned even more hearty. Chen Shang, on one side, was laughing, while on the other, he had begun stuffing those 100 beasts dan into the tiger's mouth, as well as several good dans. The young white tiger was also a big eater, otherwise, it would not have left its den to search for things to eat. Chen Shang knew he had to quickly subdue this young white tiger, because once its parents arrived, he could only choose to escape with Hua Shangyu. The young white tiger forcefully moved its mouth and ingested those 100 beasts dan into its stomach, as the look in its eyes turned somewhat grateful. Chen Shang grinned and once again began stuffing a few more dans. This made Long Shui secretly jealous, she was reluctant to eat so many at one time, and because of that, she would taste them slowly, yet this young white tiger ate so many dans at the same time. This is the profound beast bag, if you are willing to follow me, you'll never be lacking these 100 beast dans. You have already experienced my strength, if you follow me, it will not be an insult, moreover, I also have your ancestors' martial skill. Just a moment ago, you had experienced it. Chen Shang said, he knew many spirit beasts could understand human language. Chen Shang just finished speaking, before a Wang King character shimmering in golden light emerged out from the white tiger's forehead. Along with the character, there were many obscure spirit patterns, and this made Chen Shang to feel secretly excited. This was exactly the character which would only appear when a high-grade spirit beast would make a contract with humans. The white tiger family, who had inheritance, were high-grade spirit beasts, that was why they understood these things. Chen Shang quickly cut his finger, so that his blood would drip upon the spirit formation on the young white tiger's forehead. At that moment, Chen Shang had a very wonderful feeling as he felt a very mystical contact between him and the young white tiger. I'm now very weak, give me more to eat. In Chen Zhang's mind, a timid girly voice resounded, as if a girl was worried about being harmed. Chen Shang was astonished. He now could feel a connection with his spirit beast, but what made him smile wryly was that this young white tiger was the same as the little greedy dragon, both of them were gluttons. Chen Shang stuffed a few 100 beasts dan in the young white tiger's mouth, before receiving her into the profound beast bag. In his heart, he was secretly excited, he could reign in such a powerful spirit beast, moreover, a spirit beast which had such a large potential to grow. Hua Shangyu fiercely landed down from the sky. She grabbed Chen Shang, before their figures appeared and disappeared for several times, leaving that battlefield from before, which was now burning in raging fire as a billowing smoke was rising up in the sky. At the same time, from deep within the forest came a desolate yet angry roar, startling Chen Zhang's heart. This kind of roar was filled with so much slaughter chi, that it made him extremely panic-stricken. The slaughter chi had suddenly enveloped the sky over the forest. Chen Shang had always believed his own slaughter chi was one of the best in the Qinwu mainland, yet compared to the roar from a moment ago, it was a lot worse. Do not worry, after it entered the profound beast bag, its breath will be isolated from the world. That old man will not be able to find this small thing. Hua Shangyu held Chen Shang and rapidly leapt away. Her speed was too fast that it made Chen Shang unable to breathe. His body, under the impact from this high-speed movement, stimulated the injuries he had from a while ago. Very soon, they arrived outside the fragrant city. If talking about speed, mine is second to none in the Qinwu mainland, don't think I'm bragging. Hua Shangyu proudly said while laughing. As she looked at the embarrassed appearance of Chen Shang, she laughed even more happily. Chen Shang scoffed and said, I'll surpass you in the future. I'm waiting, Hua Shangyu negligently said. After she finished speaking, she once again grabbed Chen Shang and flickered, before their figures appeared inside the Danxiang Tower. Chen Shang was very tired, yet he still refused Hua Shangyu's persuasion to stay. He returned to the divine weapon shop, however, there was still no sign of Lu Menger. After returning to his room, Chen Shang swallowed a few true elemental dans and began to regulate his body. Did Hua Shangyu intentionally took me to find the white tiger? Chen Shang, in his heart, was feeling rather suspicious. It is very possible, but who knows, a woman's thought process is impossible to grasp, just like a needle at the bottom of a haystack. Long Shui said, Dear brother, give me a few hundred beasts Dan. You already have some, yet you are still asking me. Chen Shang scoffingly said. As he looked at the little white tiger in the profound beast bag, he found the little guy was already fast asleep. Inside the profound beast bag, there was a small courtyard, with some lush green grass and some trees. There was also a pool, and overall, the environment seemed to be pretty good. Chen Shang said, Did I do something cruel to her? Taking her away from her father and mother? It's okay, wait till she gets familiar with you. Even if you want to send her back, she will not go. Encountering you was also not her bad luck, this little girl is going to leave her parents soon anyway. Su Meiyao said. Ah, right, am I not the same, kidnapped by you, little rascal? Long Shui said with a pout. Little dragon, you're distorting the truth. From the start, you voluntarily followed me, now do you regret it? I'm certain you'll follow me despite anything. Even if I want to throw you away, you'll still follow me. Chen Shang scolded. Long Shui only grinned, she didn't retort at all. Chen Shang was waiting for Lu Menger to return, he wanted to have her take him back to the extreme martial sect to get the Azure Profound Fruit, in order to prepare for the 5th level alchemist assessment. He was not lacking with regards to the other materials for the building foundation Dan, but it was exactly the Azure Profound Fruit he was lacking, because they were still growing. As for the herbs for the elemental spirit Dan, he had some, but not too many. He only has 5 set of herbs. The herbs of these 2 kinds of dans were all very rare, and the Danxiang Tower definitely didn't have them. As for the herbs of the 100 beasts Dan, there was no need to speak. When Chen Shang would go take the assessment, he would definitely ask the Danxiang Tower to provide them. He rested for a day, and when he had recovered the true qi he had consumed, he discovered that his true qi had elevated by a lot. In addition, Lu Menger also came back. Chen Shang quickly ran out of his room to look for Lu Menger, but in the room of Lu Menger, what left Chen Shang surprised was that, he also saw Shui Shenxian and Leng Yulan there. Lu Menger actually went to the Icewind Valley in order to bring these 2 girls. Shui Shenxian, after seeing Chen Shang, quickly swooped over. Her face was full of sadness after she came to know the disappearance of the secular world. Just like Chen Shang, she was very worried. Leng Yulan didn't have any relatives in the secular world, now, only Shui Shenxian and Chen Shang were her closest relatives, and seeing Shui Shenxian sad, she too also became sad. Chapter 285, 5th Level Assessment. Chapter 285 5th Level Assessment. Leng Yulan and Lu Menger took their leave so that Chen Shang and Shui Shenxian could have some time alone. Chen Shang comforted Shui Shenxian for a while, before a charming smile appeared on her face. Shenxian, I'm going to participate in the alchemy tournament, are you going to watch? Chen Shang asked as he made Shui Shenxian sit on his lap while embracing her. Shui Shenxian shook her head and said, I'm not going to watch, Yulan and I are going to cultivate diligently, otherwise we will not be able to keep up with you. Seeing that delicate, pretty and fairy-like face with a trace of charm and cuteness, Chen Shang could not help but bring his lips closer. Shui Shenxian realized his intentions and raised her head and began kissing Chen Shang. Both of them kissed for long a time. Since Leng Yulan and Lu Menger didn't hear any sounds of people talking coming from inside, they already guessed what was going on. In particular, Lu Menger thought about her own apprentice kissing with Chen Shang, and herself having a kiss with Chen Shang, she could not help but be flushed red. She secretly cursed Chen Shang, this little rascal, took both master and apprentice as his own. Although Leng Yulan, this white-haired beauty, usually appeared to be hot-blooded and impulsive, she was only a young inexperienced girl in regard to these matters. Peeking through the seam of the door, she was secretly envious, yet at the same time more curious about what that would feel like. Chen Shang, Shui Shenxian and Leng Yulan gathered back together for a short moment, before Lu Menger took them both away. Lu Menjie only told Chen Shang that she was taking both of them to a place inside Icewind Valley for cultivation, a place that would be rather beneficial for them. Chen Shang speculated that she was taking them to a mysterious realm. Originally, he wanted Lu Menjie to take him to the extreme martial sect to get the ripened azure profound fruit, but he didn't expect Lu Menjie to actually have one on hand. Seeing Chen Zhang's need for it, without any further ado, she readily and generously gave it to Chen Shang. Lu Menjie took Shui Shenxian and Leng Yulan back. It would be few days before she would be back. Chen Shang didn't tell Lu Menjie he was taking the 5th level assessment, he was planning on giving her a pleasant surprise on her return. After acquiring the azure profound fruit, Chen Shang had gathered all the ingredients he needed. Now he could go and apply for the alchemist assessment. Lu Menjie brought Shui Shenxian and Leng Yulan to meet Chen Shang, not only to give comfort to Shui Shenxian but also for another purpose. It was to let Shui Shenxian and Leng Yulan relax before they went into the closed-door cultivation for quite some time. Just like the last time, the reason why Chen Shang couldn't practice with Leng Yulan was also because of this. They had been separated for a while, and at that time, he was worried to death about her. Chen Shang had once told this to Lu Menjie. Danxiang Tower. This giant tower was the sacred place for many alchemists. It was also the examination site where they could obtain their credentials. The assessment here was very strict, it was same requirement for everyone, no matter who it was. What, you want to go through the 5th level assessment? In a room a luxuriously dressed Hua Shangyu tenderly shouted. Chen Shang looked at Hua Shangyu who was dressed just like royalty. In his heart, he felt rather bewildered. You didn't hear wrong, I want to take the assessment. I have enough herbs to refine 2 dans. Refining the dans during the assessment was comparatively a little more difficult than usual. This was because during the alchemy process, there were many onlookers, giving the participating alchemist quite a bit pressure. Many people often failed at the drastic difference between refining alone and in front of others. Little rascal, do not joke with me. Do not waste these herbs and be obedient. Hua Shanyu tried to persuade Chen Shang. Chen Shang was very confident of himself, but this pretty alluring woman in front was actually looking down him. This made him somewhat unhappy. Of course, he knew Hua Shangyu was worried for his sake, that he would waste precious hard-to-obtain herbs. Sister, you are underestimating me too much. If I can pass through the low 5th level assessment, how are you going to pay me back? Chen Shang said with an evil smile. He was preparing to have a bet with Hua Shangyu so he could take advantage of her. Just go take it, I'll be your invigilator, Hua Shangyu said while pouting. She did not take his bait. Chen Shang felt strange. Generally if it was someone else, they would bet, yet Hua Shangyu didn't. This made him somewhat disappointed. Low 5th level alchemist rank required one to refine 3 kinds of low-grade profound level dans. Hua Shangyu knew Chen Shang could refine the 100 Beasts Dan and the Building Foundation Dan, but that only totaled up to 2 kinds of low-grade profound level dans, both of which were rather easy to refine. She could not think of any other Dan Chen Shang would be able to refine. Hua Shangyu had a high status in the Danxiang Taoyuan. In Chen Shang's opinion, her status was probably similar to that of Elder Dan and Wu Kaming in the extreme martial sect and could make executive decisions in general situations. Very quickly, she called in 3 5th-level alchemists. Although it was only 3 people, they were enough to approve Chen Zhang's alchemy process should he pass. Just like last time, Chen Shang entered a private room. These 3 alchemists all knew about Chen Shang, this young and famous talented alchemist. All of them very readily came over, they were very much interested in what this young man planned to do. From the start, they were doing alchemy in Danxiang Tower, so they arrived very quickly. Among these 3 alchemists, 2 were old men with shining white hairs, while the third was a white-haired old woman. All 3 of them were very old, yet they were very respectful towards Hua Shangyu. From their faces, Chen Shang didn't know who these 3 were, but after he learned their names, he was very surprised. In the alchemist circle, there was a ranking list, upon which there were the names of many outstanding alchemists. Chen Shang had once seen this list and he could recognize the names of these 3. Among all the 5th-level alchemists, these 3 were very remarkable. It was said all of them had expectations to enter into the 6th level. Chen Shang very courteously saluted these 3 old alchemists, who sat together with Hua Shangyu upon stone chairs on one side of the private room, waiting for Chen Shang to begin. Chen Shang only needed the Danxiang Tower to provide the herbs for the 100 Beasts Dan, as for the other herbs, he took them out himself. Little brother, besides refining the building foundation Dan and the 100 beasts Dan, which other low-grade profound level Dan are you planning to refine? An old man very curiously asked. Chen Shang was not even 30 years old, yet it was well known he could refine 2 different kinds of low-grade profound level Dan already. He was monster among geniuses, however, it wasn't much to these seniors because these 2 low-grade profound level Dans were not that complicated. Chen Shang kept them guessing. He laughed and said, regular alchemy is too boring, 3 seniors, it will be more fun if you wait for me to refine then guess which Dan I'm refining. Good, naughty brat, ha ha ha, the old woman kindly laughed. Hua Shangyu only secretly scoffed. She was also very curious, she had asked Chen Shang before but didn't get so much as a hint to what he was going to refine. The elemental spirit Dan Chen Shang was going to refine had not appeared for a very long time. It had only been mentioned in records, whether it was the herbs or the Dan, both had long been deemed extinct. Of course, Chen Shang was going to refine the 100 beasts Dan first. It was relatively easy to refine, and also allowed him to warm up. He neither anxiously or slowly processed those herbs. This one step before the actual alchemy was also an ordeal to most alchemists, although it appeared to be slow, it was very skillful. Slow and fast, fast and slow, his elegant and quick actions caused these old alchemists to be secretly astonished. The way Chen Shang processed these herbs made it seem as if he had been refining Dans for many years. Moreover, it had increased his overall speed. While refining a large number Dans, this process could save a lot of time. The brilliant flame dragon furnace was a very powerful alchemical furnace, yet in the eyes of these old alchemists, it seemed to just be some ordinary furnace. Perhaps their own furnace were more gorgeous and beautiful than Chen Zhang's. After processing the herbs, Chen Shang deftly placed them inside the furnace. His actions were very neat, from the time when Chen Shang took out these herbs, all his actions were finished in one go. In the blink of an eye, Chen Shang began to pour the flames into the alchemical furnace, as the warm heat enveloped the private room. Chapter 286, Diligently Refining. Chapter 286 Diligently Refining. In order to not let people perceive that he has a fire spirit, Chen Shang intentionally converged the flame's aura. However, those old alchemists still could feel Chen Zhang's flames were very formidable. Although this kind of light fire qi was usually very weak, they could figure out it was extraordinary from the fire qi emitted. Hua Shangyu was the only one calmly watching while Chen Shang was refining the Dan. He was very serious now, focused on the alchemy with all his heart and not the least bit affected by the people around him. Chen Zhang's control over flames had already reached an insanely high degree. These old alchemists all closed their eyes to feel the changes in the temperature inside the alchemical furnace. What made them astonished was that the temperature in the furnace seemed as if there has been no change, it was very smooth. Only Hua Shangyu could sense that Chen Zhang's control over the temperature of flames was very good and very subtle, which was comparable with many high-ranking alchemists. These old alchemists felt it was a little strange because the changes in the temperature on the outside and the inside was very unique. They had seen others refine the 100 beasts Dan, and they themselves knew how to refine but not quite the same way Chen Shang did it. The flames at beginning were not like this, it had too few changes. Under normal circumstances in the refinement of the 100 beasts Dan, the flames at the beginning would be very intense, in order to bake the herbs. Various herbs required different amount of heat, logically speaking, the different heat fluctuations from the furnace should be very obvious. Chen Shang opened his eyes, and laughed towards Hua Shangyu. The onlooking old alchemists were all slightly surprised for a moment ago, Chen Shang was dead serious, yet he was now making careless gestures which was taboo in alchemy. Chen Shang, seeing the complexion of the three, could guess everything. He in his heart was secretly having a good laugh. Indeed, the situation you sensed in the alchemical furnace is strange. After all, this is the brilliant flame dragon furnace, the flow of time is different from the outside. Hua Shangyu spat in low voice. A moment ago she was secretly praising Chen Zhang's seriousness in her heart, yet now he was all smiling towards her. This caused the good impression he had created to the 3 old alchemists to suddenly disappear. Especially the look in his eyes when he looked at Hua Shangyu, made them hold him secretly in contempt. During alchemy, this brat actually did not forget to look at a beauty, it made them regret ever coming to supervise Chen Shang. Be a little serious, Hua Shangyu scoffed. Chen Shang grinned, I've finished refining. What? Hua Shangyu and the 3 old alchemists could not help exclaim. They hastily jumped up from their chairs with a look of disbelief hanging on their faces. How much time had passed? They remembered Chen Shang just closed the lid not long ago. They also had not seen even a little indication that it was done, yet Chen Shang said he had finished refining. Don't joke around. Hua Shangyu finished speaking, before Chen Shang opened the lid of furnace. An azure aura emerged from the inside before 10 azure dans exuding bizarre herbal fragrance were calmly lying inside the furnace. This was the scene appeared in their view, before the white mist surrounding the dans slowly began to disperse. This middle part was not in Raws, and Mike added it, I have no idea what it means. Unexpectedly, there were 10 dans. Seeing this, these 3 old alchemists were dumbfounded. They quickly approached the cauldron and seriously counted 3 times, before deciding that there were indeed 10 beasts dan. Do not doubt, these were all refined by me. Everybody here are all old seniors in the world of alchemists, I dare not play any tricks under your eyelids. Chen Shang snappily said. He had been rather more serious than the usual in refining the 100 beasts dan, that was the only reason he could refine them so quickly, but he did not expect these people would not believe what was in front of their eyes. Impossible. The 100 beasts dan can actually be refined so quickly. How long ago have you started refining this dan? An old man carefully observing 100 beasts dan asked. Not long ago, a few months ago, that's all. Chen Shang replied. As a matter of fact, he had successfully refined this dan a few days ago. He didn't want these old alchemists be scared to death, which was why he didn't speak truth. Hua Shangyu too expressed understanding regarding this. Even then, these 3 elders were not so lightly scared. Their shocked expressions looked very funny. Looking at their appearance, they could not wait to kill themselves. When comparing the quantity, quality and the time required to refine the 100 beasts dans, their accomplishments simply didn't amount to anything in regards to Chen Shang. If they competed in refining the 100 beasts dan with Chen Shang, it can be said they will lose 10 times out of 10. Although Hua Shangyu was very surprised, she soon calmed down. She was very familiar with Chen Shang, and got gradually accustomed to the shocking deeds of Chen Shang. For instance, Lu Menger, this super beauty had been chased by millions of young martial artists 10,000 years ago, but now she had been taken by this little rascal Chen Shang. Moreover, he had taken both master and the apprentice of 2 of the most beautiful women in the Chenwu mainland. If these deeds was revealed, certainly no one would come to believe them to be the work of Chen Shang. Cough cough. I just didn't want to delay senior's valuable time, that's why I refined a bit faster. Chen Shang, seeing those 3 old alchemists staring at the 100 beasts dans, forcefully coughed and said. These 3 old alchemists once again felt a blow. The alchemy time cannot become faster when you want it to be faster. If they didn't care about their face, they would definitely pester Chen Shang and make him impart some experience of his. Chen Zhang's first and foremost principle of alchemy was not to waste the herbs. The herbs should be used completely out to an extreme, this way it might be possible to refine out even just 1 more dan. During alchemy, there would be many minute herbal powder transforming into mist and flowing out of the furnace. And this was the reason why the private room of many alchemists would be filled with the herbal fragrance. However, Chen Zhang's case, he would not let such things happen. He completely controlled everything to remain inside the furnace. This was why there would be 1 or 2 dan more refined out than other alchemists. This point was something Hua Shangyu and the other 3 also realized when Chen Shang was refining the dan. It could be said that there was no trace of any herbal scent. This made them feel ashamed, because it was not something which could be achieved only through the talent, it was also a reflection of their state of mind. During alchemy, they only pursued the ability to refine the dans, sometimes even ignoring the quality of the dans. Yet Chen Zhang's requirements regarding the quality and the usage of the herbs were both very high. Even Su Meiyao admired this point of Chen Shang. She believed that perhaps the reason why Chen Shang could progress so much faster in the alchemy was because of this diligence. It was also why he could refine so much better than his peers. The second dan Chen Shang was going to refine was the building foundation dan. Although during the last assessment he had also used this dan to replace the high-grade spirit level dan, he still had to refine it once again. Chen Shang took out the herbs for the building foundation dan and cautiously processed them. At this point, the 3 old alchemists were watching very intently. They were worried they would miss the slightest detail from Chen Zhang's refining process. Although they could also refine the building foundation dan, they had not for many years. The azure profund fruit was not that easy to find. It would be even rarer for one to get the chance to see others refining it, so of course they would seriously watch the alchemy process. In the eyes of these 3 old alchemists, Chen Shang had become very tall, just like their teacher. Hua Shangyu was the only one rather with a dull look. She already knew Chen Shang could refine the building foundation Dan. On the contrary, she was much more curious about what other Dan beside the 100 Beasts Dan and the building foundation Dan he was going to refine, and also which type of low-grade profound level Dan he could refine. Chen Shang had refined a lot of building foundation Dans, and had a lot of them in his pockets. If he was willing and expended everything in growing the azure profound fruit, he could almost eat building foundation Dans like they were jelly beans. The azure profound fruit Lu Menger had given him was of very high quality. He could refine 4 Dans from it. Last time, because of the quality of the herbs, he was only able to refine 2 Dans, which was still very shocking. After processing the herbs, Chen Shang placed them inside the furnace, before he covered the lid and poured in the flames. This was very tedious process, but the 3 old alchemists watched it with relish. Chen Shang didn't know what in the world they were looking so intently at. They could neither sense the temperature nor the situation inside the alchemical furnace. Chapter 287, Junjun. Chapter 287 Junjun. Refining the building foundation Dan was very easy for Chen Shang, because his divine sense, compared to the time when he first refined the building foundation Dan, was remarkably stronger. He didn't feel the least bit of pressure. While refining, he had a leisure expression. From time to time, he would look at Hua Shangyu, but no matter how he looked, he would never get tired of looking. The more he looked, the more comfortable he felt, especially today that her clothes were so luxurious. Chen Shang speculated that Hua Shangyu might have been affected by Lu Menger. That was why she was dressed like a queen. However, she didn't really have that first under heaven kind of imposing manner, and she also didn't have Lu Menger's cold and noble temperament. Instead, there was another kind of charm, which was coquettish, captivating and filled with noble aura. Her attractiveness could evoke any man's desire to conquer her. Suddenly, Chen Shang felt some movements inside the profound beast bag. After the little white tiger had entered the profound beast bag, it has always been sleeping. Chen Shang eventually had to wait until she woke up. Little guy, it might be a bit narrow in there, but I ask you to be patiently for some time. Once I have the opportunity, I'll replace it with a little bigger space. Chen Shang gently said. No, it's all good. The little white tiger's timid voice rang in Chen Zhang's mind. It was clear that she had been quite scared by Chen Shang. She was already thoroughly afraid of him, making it somewhat harder for Chen Shang to adapt. What is your name? Chen Shang asked. I don't have a name, Master, can you help me choose one? The little white tiger carefully asked. Spirit beasts could not speak, they could only use divine sense. The humans were the wisest of all living beings. After the final evolution of beasts, they could take a human form, just like Long Shui. She would rarely transform into dragon, and most of the time, she would be in her human form. Let me choose for you. Long Shui excitedly said. This gave a scare to the young white tiger, because she didn't expect Chen Shang to also have such a powerful existence beside him, not to mention that it was a dragon. Since she is a white tiger, her surname can be Bai, same as Sister Yu Yu. And since she seemed to be timid Dan Xiao, her name should be Bai Dan Xiao. Long Shui said. Dan Xiao your ass, you chose such a stupid name. Chen Shang reprimanded loudly. At first, he thought that Long Shui was speaking logically, yet at the end, it turned out to be shit. She is a female Mew, let's call her Bai Mumu Bai Mew Mew. Long Shui quickly thought of another name. You're an idiot dragon, can you not even think of one normal name? According to your view, why is your name not Foolish Dragon or Stupid Dragon? Chen Shang was completely speechless from the names Long Shui had suggested. He felt that he could only rely on himself to think of a name for the young white tiger. At the side, Su Meiyao was snickering. She too had been thunderstruck when she heard Long Shui's suggestion. On the other hand, Bai Yuyu was very seriously thinking, because her surname was also Bai. How about Bai Junjun? Bai Yuyu said. Su Meiyao mischievously laughed and said, isn't that the name senior sister had used to deceive others? Good, then it is decided. Little tiger, from now on, your name is Bai Junjun. Chen Shang was quite satisfied with Bai Yuyu's suggestion. Thanks a lot master. Bai Junjun obediently replied. She had been completely conquered by Chen Shang. Being called a master by a white tiger made Chen Shang feel a little strange, yet it also made him have a sense of accomplishment. Junjun, won't your parents worry about you? Chen Shang asked. He was most worried about this. If he was caught by 2 furious white tigers, he would be completely finished. Rest assured, originally, I was evicted by them. Junjun replied. On one side, he was chatting with the white tiger, while on the other, he was refining a Dan with a serious look. This made the three old alchemists to secretly nod. If they came to know that Chen Shang had just received a young beast as his slave, they would definitely vomit blood. In the blink of an eye, half an hour went by, and under Chen Zhang's exquisite control, the refinement inside the furnace went very smoothly. At the moment, the solidification of the Dan has already started, and very soon, he would be finished refining. While refining, Chen Shang, from his very serious appearance, suddenly stretched his waist lazily and yawned, making the three old alchemists surprised for a moment. This was not something to do while refining a Dan. Because Chen Shang had moved his palm away from the furnace, that meant that the flow of flames had already been broken, which was rather a serious mistake. For this, Hua Shangyu was not the slightest bit surprised, for she knew Chen Shang had already finished refining the building foundation Dan. I've finished refining. Seniors, you can check. Chen Shang calmly said. The three old alchemists were suddenly sweating profusely. Just a moment ago, they wanted to scold Chen Shang for committing such a big mistake, yet Chen Shang had actually finished refining in just half an hour. As they had already seen Chen Shang refine the 100 Beasts Dan, they were not really that surprised that Chen Shang had once again succeeded. However, in their heart, they were secretly shocked by Chen Zhang's monstrous talent. It was Hua Shangyu who opened the lid. Inside the furnace, there were actually 4 building foundation Dans. This almost scared the shit out of the three old alchemists. Refining 4 building foundation Dans at once was something they had never even heard before, let alone seeing it with their own eyes. They almost felt like kneeling to Chen Shang. Excellent quality. Hua Shangyu, on the contrary, was very calm as she took out a building foundation Dan and observed it. 4 Dans, moreover, they were of excellent quality. This seemed to have given a pretty big blow to these three old alchemists. Coming here, they thought that they could take a high and mighty stance like an emperor. They were thinking about having Chen Shang give them a salute, yet the result had left their face red from shame. Chen Shang received the building foundation Dans as he laughed. He said, now the final one. Hua Shangyu and the others were very much in anticipation regarding what was the final Dan. All of them calmly sat on their chair and patiently waited. First, Chen Shang took out a lot of auxiliary herbs for processing, and then he took out the divine spirit flower and the raising soul grass. Seeing these 2 herbs, Hua Shangyu let out a cry. The 3 old alchemists knew that the small grass and flower was definitely not something ordinary, but they did not recognize what it was. They all looked at Hua Shangyu, but Hua Shangyu didn't say anything. She only shook her head, saying, wait for him to finish refining, you will then know it. Chen Shang didn't expect that these 3 old alchemists actually didn't know what he was about to refine. They couldn't even recognize the divine spirit flower and the raising soul grass. These 2 were but the main ingredients for refining the elemental spirit Dan. However, these 2 herbs had already disappeared for a long time. The elemental spirit Dan was mainly used to elevate spiritual power and cultivate the divine sense. Of course, its most important role was in the cultivation of the divine soul. Chen Shang suspected that Hua Shangyu was an alchemist, because she had a very great knowledge about herbs. Not only this, while Chen Shang was refining a Dan, she was earnestly watching, and she could even see through each and every step. If she wasn't an alchemist, she would not be able to recognize all of these things. It was only today that he had such a doubt. If Hua Shangyu was an accomplished alchemist, then it could be said that she was very secretive. At the very start, Su Meiyao had said that she was a powerful woman. While refining the elemental spirit Dan, Chen Shang was very careful. Until now, this was the most difficult Dan he could refine, and he had only been successful once. Hua Shangyu and the others, seeing Chen Shang was a lot more serious compared to before, had a more solemn look. This made them feel that the atmosphere was somewhat tensed. These 3 old alchemists firmly believed that Chen Shang was certainly refining some unconventional, never before seen low-grade profound level Dan. In their opinion, knowing how to refine this kind of Dan didn't have any prospects, and the commonly used Dans were comparatively harder to refine. Chapter 288, Successful. Chapter 288 Successful. The building foundation Dans were very rare, so they were not considered commonly used. However, they were very famous. As for the 100 Beasts Dan, it was used for practicing, and its reputation was not very small either. Beside these, there was also the life elemental Dan. If one took it when he was exhausted, then he would be able to recover a large amount of true chi in the blink of an eye, allowing them to become energetic for a short span of time. In addition, it could also stimulate a person's hidden potential. As for refining the life elemental Dan, it was not considered too tough, it was only the herbs which were rare. Then there was the baptizing marrow Dan. This was the low-grade profound level Dan Chen Shang had been wanting to refine, but it was too difficult to refine it. Moreover, its herbs were also very expensive, fetching a price several times higher than that of the 100 Beasts Dan. It was mainly used to strengthen the body, and it was quite a popular Dan. There was also the altering fate Dan, which could improve its user's poor spiritual vein to a better one. It was a Dan often bought by some wealthy families, and it was slightly difficult to refine. In addition, its herbs were also slightly expensive. As for the elemental spirit Dan Chen Shang was refining at the moment, it was in the forefront of the low-grade profound level Dans. After all, it was used to strengthen the divine sense. Cultivating the true chi was easy, tempering the body was rather difficult, and cultivating the divine sense was the most difficult. Chen Shang had a divine soul, and only through cultivating in Shinto would enable him to make his divine sense super strong. In the Chenwu mainland, Chen Zhang's alchemy talent could be described as second to none, yet he was not proud and arrogant of himself. He once heard Su Meiyao speak of a place called the Sacred Dan World, and in there, the alchemists were as many as dogs. Moreover, the rank of the alchemists there was different from the Chenwu mainland. It was a very fertile world, and rumor had it, precious spirit herbs were like common grass there. This was the place Chen Shang had been longing for, however, going there was very difficult. In addition, Su Meiyao didn't even tell him how to go there. She only said that even if he knew, it would not be of any use, because he wasn't strong enough. Previously, when Chen Shang was refining the elemental spirit Dan, it led to many failures because his divine sense was inadequate. But now that his divine sense was so powerful, refining the elemental spirit Dan wasn't too much of a burden. In the beginning, Chen Shang was sweating profusely. Although he had succeeded once, but Chen Shang still felt that it was a bit difficult to refine. His divine sense was indeed very strong, but he discovered that using too much divine sense all of a sudden to suppress the herbal spirit chi in the alchemical furnace would result in the herbal spirit chi to turn even more tyrannical, which would be counterproductive. Looking at Chen Zhang's appearance, the three old alchemists were wondering in their hearts. In their opinion, refining this unconventional Dan should be relatively simple, yet Chen Shang was now encountering such difficulties. In their heart, they were secretly happy, at the least in this regard, they were better than Chen Shang. Hua Shangyu was seriously watching, her pretty eyes were shimmering strangely again and again, as if she could see through Chen Zhang's furnace. Those three old alchemists also could not understand why the supervisor of Danxiang Taoyuan was so entranced. This woman is quite an expert in hiding herself, she's very formidable. Long Shui said in a low voice. She was intently watching Hua Shangyu. Hua Shangyu also felt inconceivable. She suddenly discovered that Chen Zhang's alchemical furnace was mysterious. Her mouth could not help but flash a charming and enthralling smile as she determined that Chen Zhang's furnace was very formidable. Of course, what was totally out of her expectation was Chen Shang could actually refine the elemental spirit Dan. This was a Dan which could only be successfully refined with a very subtle control over one's divine sense. Moreover, compared to numerous Dans, it had a very high requirement for flames. Incredible, this woman's divine sense is very powerful. It seems that she have discovered something. Long Shui said with surprise. Chen Shang, at the moment, had no time to pay any attention to this, he was seeking the feeling from the last time when he had succeeded. All the elemental spirit Dan's herbs required to absorb his divine sense in order to solidify the Dan, he could not let these herbs absorb too much or too little. Even the slightest bit of mistake would lead to failure. Soon, he had arrived at the most crucial moment, as the alchemical furnace actually slightly began to shake. It appeared as if the furnace was about to explode, which made the three old alchemists secretly ridicule. Before, they had suffered a blow from Chen Shang, but finally, they could regain a bit of their dignity. Bang! A muffled explosion rang. Before Chen Shang fiercely opened his eyes, his head was full of sweat. He had actually failed. Moreover, an explosion in the furnace had also occurred. He secretly sighed and once again took out the herbs. On one side, he was processing, on the other, he was recalling the reason which led to the failure a moment ago. A slight gloating look hung up on the faces of those three old alchemists. Seeing Chen Shang blast his furnace, they felt a lot better in their heart. Even though they didn't know which Dan Chen Shang was refining, but they believed they themselves would not commit this kind of error. They felt good that Chen Shang actually failed refining an unconventional Dan. Hua Shangyu frowned. She was thinking about the reason behind Chen Zhang's failure. She could sense the subtle changes inside the furnace, and she could see Chen Shang was very rich in experience regarding the refinement of the elemental spirit Dan. These things should not have been the reason of his failure. Damn girl, you chirp so continuously. If not for you chirping continuously, father would have not failed. Chen Shang, using his divine sense, cursed Long Shui. Long Shui indignantly replied, I suddenly found that seductress was very formidable, I could not help but tell you. So what if you wanted to tell me, why were you yapping shit with Junjun, that little white tiger? If you want to chit-chat, then chit-chat. Why the fuck do you want to make me listen? Chen Shang became even more angrier. I'm sorry, I only felt Junjun was very strange, that was why I was chatting with her. Who would have thought that it will make your refinement of the elemental spirit Dan become so difficult? Long Shui pettily said, making Chen Shang unable to get angry again. Fortunately, there was still an opportunity to refine again, but it was the last chance. Long Shui, while Chen Shang was processing the herbs, told her findings to Chen Shang. Little rascal, that seductress, divine sense is very strong, she could clearly sense the situation inside the alchemical furnace. She knows many of my secrets, I'm not afraid if she also came to know about this. Chen Shang sighed and said. Hua Shangyu knew his and Lu Menger's secret, and she also knew that he was the disciple of Huang Jintian. Although she wasn't vocal about, Chen Shang was still sure that she had definitely figured it out. In front of me, these women usually pretend to be stupid, but I have never thought that they were so smart. Chen Shang cursed. If girls in front of you are too clever, you would not be happy. They act stupid only to seduce you. Su Meiyao said while tenderly laughing. Chen Zane began to place the herbs inside the furnace, and then began to pour in the flames, before he exhorted Long Shui, little girl, whatever matter it is, wait till I have finished refining. Only then can you tell me. I know. Long Shui tenderly shouted. This once, Chen Shang was just the same as a moment ago, profusely sweating. He began to hate refining the elemental spirit Dan a little. Refining this kind of Dan, no matter how strong an alchemist's divine sense was, if they have not grasped it well, then they would definitely suffer a loss. Bring it on, 2 Dans. Chen Shang, in his heart, became resolute. Using his divine sense, he divided the fused masses of the herbal spirit qi and the herbal powder into 2. Afterwards, he began to squeeze them into Dans. For the first time, Chen Shang was refining 2 Dans at the same time. If he was only refining 1 Dan, by that time, he would not be able to completely unleash the potency of the herbs. If not for him being not too familiar with the elemental spirit Dan, he would have definitely gone for 3 Dans. Now, inside the furnace, 2 masses of energy were slowly being squeezed. Hua Shangyu's senses were crystal clear. In her heart, she was extremely surprised. When she looked at Chen Shang, a look of admiration appeared in her eyes. Solidify, Chen Shang shouted in his heart as the trembling furnace suddenly calmed down. During the solidification of the elemental spirit Dan, as long as an alchemist's divine sense was strong enough, the process would then be very easy. Chapter 289, 5th Level Alchemist. Chapter 289 5th Level Alchemist. The 3 old alchemists, after seeing Chen Shang suddenly relax, knew that Chen Shang must have been successful, which also meant that Chen Shang would become a 5th level alchemist, albeit a low 5th level alchemist. But for Chen Zhang's current age, it was still very amazing. Thinking of Chen Zhang's promising future, the 3 elders felt jealous in their hearts. All of them had only become 5th level alchemists at the end of their poor lives. What Dan have you refined? The old woman, while walking over, asked. Chen Shang laughed and said, Senior, won't you know after I open the lid? The other 2 old men and Hua Shangyu encircled Chen Shang. Hua Shangyu already knew what Dan Chen Shang had refined, but she didn't expect Chen Shang would actually be successful in refining it. After the lid was opened, a burst of golden aura suddenly shot out from inside, dazzling everyone's eyes. But very soon, the golden aura disappeared as 2 bright Dans circulating in a golden brilliance were lying inside the furnace, sending the 3 old alchemists into extreme shock. They had still not recognized which Dan it was, but they knew that it was definitely a very formidable low-grade profound level Dan, especially because of the slight aura it gave off, which could affect one's mind. The 3 old alchemists gulped down a mouthful of saliva. They felt a little embarrassed. Before, they thought Chen Shang was refining an unconventional Dan, and they even believed that they would certainly be able to recognize it, but now, even after looking at the Dans, they weren't able to recognize it. This Dan was absolutely not the unconventional Dan, which wasn't really useful like they had imagined. This is the elemental spirit Dan, it is also the first for me to see it. Hua Shangyu dismissively said. She took out a Dan and carefully observed it. Chen Shang didn't expect that even Hua Shangyu had only seen this kind of Dan now. It just made it evident how rare the herbs for the elemental spirit Dan were. Elemental spirit Dan, the legendary elemental spirit Dan which can make its user's divine sense soar. One of the old men was stunned. They had certainly heard of it, but its exact details, no one knew for sure. Even its recipe, not a single one of them knew it. The three old alchemists were thoroughly stunned. The elemental spirit Dan was, although a low-grade profound level Dan, its usage was very big. A long time ago, it was once set to be included among the middle-grade profound level Dans, but as its degree of difficulty in refining had not yet reached the middle-grade profound level, it was set as a low-grade profound level Dan. This Dan was much more valuable than the building foundation Dan. Chen Shang not only had the herbs, he could even refine it. The three old alchemists who were secretly sneering at Chen Shang for refining an unconventional Dan before, now knew how wrong they were. Chen Shang had not refined just any unconventional Dan, but instead the second to none among the low-grade profound level Dans, the elemental spirit Dan. Are you willing to sell this elemental spirit Dan to the Danxiang Tower? We only need one, just for showcase, we will absolutely not sell it. Hua Shangyu's eyes had a pleasant expression as she asked Chen Shang. The three old alchemists also wanted to buy it, but they knew how rare and precious the elemental spirit Dan was. They estimated that Chen Shang would mercilessly suppress them with his price, that was why they also gave up. In his herbal garden, Chen Shang had planted a lot of herbs. In the future, he could still be able to refine it. Selling a Dan to Hua Shangyu was nothing, so he said with a laugh, of course I can, but before we talk about the price, give me the 5th level alchemist medallion first. Hua Shangyu, seeing that cunning look hanging on Chen Zhang's face, knew that she would definitely be swindled by Chen Shang. She secretly clenched her teeth as she took out a jade card with 5 light golden stripes engraved upon it. After taking it out, the three old alchemists, with their blood and divine sense, signed behind the jade card. Chen Shang waited for a short while, before they were all done. The three old alchemists politely greeted Chen Shang, before they left fully ashamed. Hua Shangyu poked Chen Zhang's waist, before softly snorting, "Little rascal, when did you learn refining the elemental spirit Dan?" "I've learned it long ago, I'm now a 5th level alchemist, ha ha ha." Chen Shang, looking at the jade card, began laughing. The 5 golden lines were a little bleak, it was a sign of a low 5th level alchemist. For the medium 5th level alchemist, it was a little bit brighter, and as for the high 5th level alchemist, the golden lines were incomparably brighter. If Chen Shang wanted to be assessed again, he could only ask the person in charge of the Danxiang Tower to make the golden lines a bit brighter. For the jade card was specially refined by the Danxiang Taoyuan, as such, the engraved spirit patterns were all very complex and abstruse. "Don't be proud, quickly speak your price." Hua Shangyu pinched Chen Zhang's arms. Thinking of herself being swindled by Chen Shang with a big price, she felt very uncomfortable. Chen Shang, after seeing her complexion, pursed his lips and said, "What do you think of me? I, from the beginning, was planning to give you one." This was contrary to what Hua Shangyu had expected. She hastily touched the place she had pinched a moment ago, laughed and said, "You're really my dear brother, you have not wasted my love for you." TLN. J Dao Shi Chu Hu Hua Shangyu De Yi Liao, Ta Ji Mang Mo La Mo Gang Kai Ni De Defang, Mei Xiao Dao, Zhen Shi Wo De Hao Di Di, Mei Wang Fei Wo J Mi Teng Ni. In the last part, Teng means both love and pain. Hua Shangyu is here making fun of him, by saying this word, representing her pinching, while at the same time, her relationship with Chen Shang. Before, Hua Shangyu had given him a profound beast bag, which allowed him to catch the white tiger. For this, Chen Shang felt very grateful for Hua Shangyu, and giving her a Dan was nothing. After Chen Shang gave the elemental spirit Dan to Hua Shangyu, he rushed to register for the tournament. He directly sought for Mrs. Li. Hua Shangyu had informed Mrs. Li long ago that Chen Shang was going to take the 5th level alchemist assessment, but she did not expect it would be so soon. "Young Master Chen, are you really a 5th level alchemist?" Mrs. Li, looking at Chen Zhang's jade card, was still a little bit doubtful. She had spent a long time in the Danxiang Tower, but it was the first time for her to see such a young 5th-level alchemist. Hey, of course, it's true. I want to register for the high-rank tournament. Chen Xiang laughed and said. Mrs. Li soon accepted this fact, because she had also supervised Chen Zhang's assessment before. After registering, Chen Xiang also asked about the content of the high-rank tournament, but Mrs. Li had her lips sealed, because it must remain a secret, lest the alchemists could specially make preparation for the tournament. This was a big test to the participants. Very soon, the alchemist circle of the Fragrance City was stirred, because an elemental spirit Dan was showcased in the Danxiang Tower. This was a Dan that has long been lost with the passage of time. It was certainly a legendary Dan. Of course, all of them didn't know who had refined it. Hua Shangyu had also asked the 3 old alchemists to keep it a secret. She couldn't allow the tycoons of the other forces to know Chen Xiang had arrived here, otherwise, it would bring him some trouble. Not to mention that this time, the Devil Path sects are also eyeing the tournament. Although the Devil sect, after their failure in the southern wasteland, promised they would no longer have any conflict with the righteous sects again, their commitment was unworthy of trust. What Hua Shangyu was most worried was, since the Devil Path's plans had been ruined by Chen Xiang, he would definitely be targeted by those from the Devil Path. Chen Xiang didn't return to the Divine Weapon Shop. According to Hua Shangyu, Lu Menger would not return there anymore, so she asked him to stay here for safety. And Chen Xiang was not going to refuse a beauty, so there was no harm in staying here. The showcased elemental spirit Dan attracted many onlookers, and majority among them were alchemists or someone who was learning alchemy. The elemental spirit Dan was placed in a transparent and sealed box, lest the potency of the elemental spirit Dan dissipate. Although it was only a low-grade profound level Dan, in the eyes of many alchemists, it was a novelty. Hua Shangyu took Chen Xiang to a tour in the Danxiang Tower. On the Danxiang Tower, there were also some herbal gardens. These herbal gardens have all been covered by a large formation for gathering spirit qi. Moreover, the water used for irrigation had all been done by someone specialized in using true qi to nurture them. Chen Xiang also noticed that the spirit herbs used for refining the true elemental Dan and the white jade Dan were growing here. He noticed that after they were carefully bred, their growth rate had significantly increased. This also opened Chen Zhang's outlook. But just as when Chen Xiang intended to go to a higher floor to have a look for more precious spirit herbs, Hua Shangyu frowned. At this time, a voice resounded in the entire Danxiang Tower. Who is the supervisor of the Danxiang Tower? Someone is here to make trouble. Chen Xiang quickly shouted. In his heart, he was somewhat excited, because he knew that there would be some good show to watch. Hua Shangyu showed Chen Xiang the whites of her eyes, before she quickly went down. Chapter 290, Yu Zhonglin. Chapter 290 Yu Zhonglin. In a hall on the first floor of the Danxiang Tower, majority of the populace does not dare to breathe loudly, and some of the timid ones all carefully began to retreat. The center of the first floor of the Danxiang Tower was where the elemental spirit Dan was being showcased. Hua Shangyu did so in order to improve the prestige of the Danxiang Tower, as well as to open the outlook of the alchemists in the Danxiang Tower. Having it attract some trouble was out of her expectations. Beside the cabinet showcasing the elemental spirit Dan, a middle-aged man with an extraordinary bearing stood. An oppressive and arrogant aura was being exuded from his entire body, and a long sword was hanging on his back. With a single glance, anyone could recognize him as a member of the Proud Sword sect, but the kind of pressure he just released a moment ago deterred many people. Some of the onlookers recognized this middle-aged man, for he was the dean of the Proud Sword sect, Yu Zhonglin. Once Hua Shangyu arrived, she coldly spoke, Yu Zhonglin, did you come here to make trouble? She most abhorred this kind of arrogant guy, especially if it was from the Proud Sword sect. Since ancient times, all of their members were like this, that was why she most hated dealing with the people from the Proud Sword sect. Chen Xiang, from afar, watched as the lively scene unfold. Chen Xiang felt the same as Hua Shangyu, he too hated the guys of the Proud Sword sect, and he had also slaughtered a few of them. In addition, in the annals of the history, the disciples of the Proud Sword sect had been oftenly killed by disciples from the rest of the 8 righteous sects. Yu Zhonglin, seeing it was just Hua Shangyu, had a look filled with disdain. He arrogantly said, are you the supervisor of the Danxiang Tower? What about your Danxiang Taoyuan's dean? Quickly ask her to come out. You do not deserve to see her. Hua Shangyu's eyebrows pressed together as she replied in a slightly furious tone. Everyone in the hall were extremely shocked. They all didn't recognize Hua Shangyu. Only the disciples of the Danxiang Taoyuan knew that Hua Shangyu was the supervisor of the Danxiang Taoyuan, but how could she dare to speak as such with Yu Zhonglin? Yu Zhonglin was the dean of the Proud Sword sect, from where was her confidence coming from? Yu Zhonglin already knew that the dean of the Danxiang Taoyuan rarely appeared in public, yet he was taking this stance. He believed that only the dean of the Danxiang Taoyuan could talk with him. Little girl, I want to buy this elemental spirit Dan. For this matter, you could not call the shots, quickly call your dean out. Yu Zhonglin's tone became a bit milder, yet it did not ease up the irritation everyone felt. Hua Shangyu sneered, the elemental spirit Dan was bought by me, if I wished for it, I can even eat it on the spot, why can't I take responsibility? Yu Zhonglin was surprised for a moment, he thought that the elemental spirit Dan was refined by the dean of the Danxiang Taoyuan. After seeing Yu Zhonglin's complexion, both Chen Shang and Hua Shangyu were secretly excited. Chen Shang didn't expect that this old man, who had been living for more than 10,000 years, to actually be so stupid. Looking at his appearance, it was pretty clear that he was very much in need of the elemental spirit Dan. He garnered so much attention and so clearly revealed his intention, wouldn't he clearly be swindled by the others? Chen Shang, in his heart, quickly thought of a plan as he continued to watch the scene unfolding in front of him. Say your price, I want this elemental spirit Dan. Yu Zhonglin, with both his hands behind his back, spoke dismissively, as if no matter how much it would be, he was going to buy. I'm not selling. Hua Shangyu had no shortage of crystal stones or true elemental Dans, as such, she was not going to sell, especially now that she was agitated at Yu Zhonglin. Little girl, you should better know how to behave a bit, this elemental spirit Dan is very important to me. Yu Zhonglin didn't even finish speaking, before Hua Shangyu lightly stroked her hair, such an enthralling action instantly garnered the attention of some onlooking men. She put on a forced smile and said, little girl, Yu Zhonglin, sooner or later, your proud sword sect will be destroyed with this foul temper of yours. I will not sell it, what are you going to do? If you have the guts, then try to destroy the Danxiang Taoyuan. Yu Zhonglin's whole body trembled in rage, how could he not know the strength of Danxiang Taoyuan? He was clearly aware of the contacts of the Danxiang Taoyuan. If the Danxiang Taoyuan was in difficulty, the extreme martial sect and the divine weapon Heavenly Empire would not stand idly, and he was most afraid of Ji Yu Dongchen. He knew that his strength was far below Ji Yu Dongchen's. This elemental spirit Dan is too important to me. Yu Zhonglin said. Now it appeared as if he was asking others, this can allow my son to break through his bottleneck, I ask you to sell it to me. Hearing his words, Chen Shang was laughing even more heartily. Yu Zhonglin had a genius son, and many people knew about this, because Yu Zhonglin very prominently publicized his own son. But who knew that when his son was about to advance to the extreme state, he suffered from Qigong deviation and was inflicted with serious injuries. After recuperating for many years, he once again recovered to his pinnacle strength, but his spirit sea had not improved. He needed his divine sense, and only then could he fully recover. However, the consciousness of Yu Zhonglin's son at that time had taken a huge hit, he could not cultivate a bit of divine sense anymore. While there were other Dans that were specialized for cultivating the divine sense, they were all still inadequate. He had already tried various ways, but he still failed to achieve any result. Before, Elder Dan advised that it might only be possible with the elemental spirit Dan, the moment his spirit sea recovered, he could immediately break through. Because the elemental spirit Dan had not appeared even once, Yu Zhonglin's son had stayed in the 9th level of the true martial realm for many years. When Chen Shang heard about this, he knew that he could ruthlessly swindle Yu Zhonglin. The elemental spirit Dan, at most, was worth no more than 1 million crystal stones. For a dean, this was only a small number, even 10 million crystal stones were not even worth mentioning. Hua Shangyu thought of giving a price of 10 million, but just as she was about to promise, Chen Zhang's voice rang in her mind. Dear sister, how much are you planning to swindle from him? Chen Shang asked. 10 million, ruthless, right? Hua Shangyu replied back. Ruthless my ass, Chen Shang said with ridicule. No way, if I ask for a higher price, others will say my Danxiang Taoyuan took advantage of someone's crisis and swindled him. 10 million crystal stones are already very sinister. Hua Shangyu indeed wanted it to be a bit more higher. You tell him to participate in the auction. At that time, the elemental spirit Dan will appear, hey hey. Chen Shang said with an evil laughter. Hua Shangyu's eyes lit up, she immediately understood Chen Zhang's intent. She secretly praised Chen Zhang's approach. If Yu Zhonglin was really in need, during the auction, they could intentionally raise the price. Not only would it make Yu Zhonglin spew blood, their profits would also be bigger. Thinking up to this point, Hua Shangyu was extremely excited in her heart. Hua Shangyu said, "No, I cannot sell it to you. From the beginning, the seller had said that we could not sell it to others. We have to respect the seller's opinion, because we, the Danxiang Tower, are doing a business where credibility is everything. However, he told us that at the time of the auction, there will be another elemental spirit Dan. The auction will begin very soon. You have waited for more than 1,000 years, can't you wait for such a short span of time?" Originally, Yu Zhonglin had been prepared to be ruthlessly swindled, but he didn't expect Hua Shangyu to speak as such. In his heart, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. If it was in the auction, maybe it could be cheaper. Yu Zhonglin let out a cold snort, before he waved his sleeve and left, making Hua Shangyu tenderly snort in response. Here, everyone knew of the legendary dean of the Proud Sword sect, or at the very least, had heard rumors about him. He was a very annoying guy who could make others hate him. Seeing such a beauty get angry, these men, in their heart, all began hating on Yu Zhonglin. Hua Shangyu angrily snorted. She left the first floor as Chen Shang excitedly followed her. "This guy, in the future I'll definitely ruthlessly kill him, however in the Fragrance City, and will definitely make him lose him countenance." Hua Shangyu was very angry. In an unique elegant room she tenderly cursed. Chen Shang laughed and said, "Dear sister, take it to the auction, at that time I'll definitely share it with you a little." Hua Shangyu took the elemental spirit Dan, thinking of very soon she could be able to see Yu Zhonglin suffer. Suddenly a charming and enthralling smile appeared on her face. Chapter 291, Fire Martial Soul. Chapter 291 Fire Martial Soul. Hua Shangyu was not lacking in crystal stones or anything. She only wanted to vent out her anger, that was why she did not want any share from Chen Shang. "Little rascal, you're really bad. Fortunately, sister is not your enemy, otherwise, it would be unfortunate. Right, the auction has a set of rules, you can't bid for your own goods. I, as the highest supervisor of the auction, of course cannot let you break the rules." Hua Shangyu said. "That's simple, can't we ask Sister Menger? This should not break the rules." Chen Shang mischievously laughed and said. Hua Shangyu's eyes lit up as ambiguously smiled and said, "Lu Menger must seriously instill you obedience." Chen Shang stuck out his tongue, then hastily left the Danxiang Tower and returned to the divine weapon shop. There was still more than a month before the auction would begin. If by that time, Chen Zhang's preparation wasn't enough, he was worried that he could only look at the good stuff, and wouldn't be able to buy them because his true elemental dans were lacking. For now, he could try to cover up by refining many true elemental dans. In the Black Tortoise mysterious realm, he had obtained a large number of herbs for the true elemental dan, and in accordance with 5 dans per set of herbs, it was enough for him to refine more than 10,000 true elemental dans. Even considering his quick speed in refining, it would still be difficult for him to completely refine them in this period. In an hour, Chen Shang could refine 10 times, and using 4 hours every day for alchemy, he could refine 40 times. In other words, he could only refine 200 true elemental dans every day. He estimated that at the time of the auction, he would probably be able to refine approximately 5,000 dans. At the moment, he had about 8,000 true elemental dan in his possession, but even after all of this, he still felt that it was still lacking. Chen Shang began to tediously refine dans. In order to not leave any regrets in that large-scale auction, he could only bite the bullet and go into seclusion. His schedule was very tight. In the day, he would refine dans, while in the night, he would cultivate true qi, and at the same time, he would also congeal the golden dragon saliva. This way, once he returned to the extreme martial sect, he would be able to quickly accelerate the ripening of a large number of his precious spirit herbs. When Lu Menger returned, she saw a note on the table in a hall. It was left behind by Chen Shang, saying he went to seclusion for alchemy. Moreover, he also asked Lu Menger to look for Hua Shangyu. Chen Shang refined dans with a firm and calm heart. At the time of the auction, although he could borrow some money from Hua Shangyu and Lu Menger, he still didn't want to. It would appear that he had no backbone, and he would even appear as a laughingstock to them. Time passed away bit by bit. In the Fragrance City, a storm was brewing. Outstanding disciples of various sects, some reputed aristocrats, and even devil sect disciples were mixed in the city to participate in the grand meeting. Dan, for many martial artists, it was something to rely upon. Many came here in order to take advantage of the grand meeting to buy some relatively cheaper dans, or came along to join in the fun and open their outlook. Some deans also quietly arrived. Some of them were here to procure dans, some came as guests of Danxiang Taoyuan, and some even arrived here to especially make their disciples participate in the alchemy tournament. Of course, the majority of them all came here for the auction. These deans not only wanted to buy, but also wanted to sell. That was why in the auction, some very attractive things, which were only in the hands of the Nirvana realm martial artists, would appear in the auction. It was precisely because of this that Chen Shang had to toughen his heart to refine more true elemental dans. He was not like those deans with strong backgrounds. If he didn't have enough capital, by the time of the auction, he could only impatiently watch in vain. And, as he expected, before the start of the auction, he was able to refine 5,500 true elemental dans, and along with the 8,500 dans, he had a total of 14,000 dans in his hand. However, even after this, he still felt that it was not enough. Little rascal, it is very rare to see you so honest. You even went into closed-door training for as much as 1 month. Lu Menjie, with Hua Shangyu, sat in the hall while chatting. Once Chen Shang came out, he immediately caught sight of the two beauties. He didn't expect Hua Shangyu would actually come here so often. The relationship of these two turned out to be better than he had imagined. Both of them were wearing snow-white simple languette, but both had two different kinds of flavor. One was charming and enthralling, while the other was noble and dignified. None of them was better or worse than the other, making the onlooking Chen Shang secretly praise in his heart. Looking at you being so impatient, it seems that someone will be out of luck. Hua Shangyu mischievously laughed and said as she handed a cup of tea to Chen Shang. Chen Shang walked over and took the teacup, then very uncouthly sat down on the chair, crossed his legs and said, I'm going to earn true elemental dans. I'm not an aloof figure like the both of you, whom, without even doing anything, will still have a large amount of crystal stones and true elemental dans. Then you'll have to work hard. This is definitely your first time participating in such a large auction. Your shitty capital is probably only enough to take a look at the fun. When those deans and elder level characters come out to bid, your legs will definitely become soft. Hua Shangyu said in a laughing tone. Lu Menjie chuckled and said, little rascal, what if sister lends you a bit? Hua Shangyu also followed in, I can also lend you some. Chen Shang secretly despised them, but he did not immediately refuse. For the time being, there is no need. Wait for the auction to begin. At that time, if I really need more, then we can talk again. If it was truly not enough, Chen Shang could only nonchalantly ask them. Of course he was not afraid of these two threatening him every day. One must know, the lender was always the master. I want to auction 2 things. It is best if you can auction them at the beginning. Chen Shang replied. He had many good stuffs, but some of them were things he could not bear to sell. This point, both Hua Shangyu and Lu Menjie knew. Hua Shangyu asked, what is it? If you want to sell dans, I advise you to forget it. If Yu Zhongling wasn't impatient, your elemental spirit dan is not worth anything. 10 million crystal stones for these tycoons was indeed not worth anything. I want to sell 10 building foundation dans, sell them all together. This should be able to fetch a very high price, and a fire martial soul. Chen Shang said. Hearing the 3 words, fire martial soul, Hua Shangyu and Lu Menjie were both extremely surprised. The fire martial soul was different from the fire spirit. The fire martial soul could only be fused with a single part of one's body, such as the arm or the leg. As for the fire spirit, it would fuse with the whole body and as well as the soul, and it could even allow one to have powerful flames. When a fire martial soul was fused with the meridians of the arm, no matter what type of true qi, its user would be able to release flames. The strength of the flames vary from one user to another. If their true qi was vigorous, then their flames would be stronger. Chen Shang had acquired this fire martial soul when he had killed the crown prince, Song Nanming. Although it wasn't as good as a fire spirit, if it was sold in an auction, a lot of people would want to fight for it. You really have this thing? Lu Menjie came next to Chen Shang. Chen Shang took out a small jade bottle and handed it to Lu Menjie. Lu Menjie, after observing the jade bottle for a bit, said in surprise, you little rascal, how can you have so many precious things? It is the first time for me to see a fire martial soul. Hua Shangyu also took a closer look. In the small jade bottle, there was a round red thing releasing a warm current. It was indeed the fire martial soul. Although it was the first time Hua Shangyu and Lu Menjie had seen it, they could still recognize it from the information provided in the records. How is it? Chen Shang proudly laughed and said. Indeed, it is the fire martial soul, but where did you get it? Hua Shangyu covered the jade bottle and received it along with the 10 building foundation dans. Although it was a very rare thing, but for them, it was of little value. Selling it wasn't particularly hard for them. Lu Menger was also very curious, but Chen Shang laughed and said, not going to tell you. Humph. Chen Shang returned to his room. Now, he knew that these deans were all richer than he had imagined. Last time, when he had sold the building foundation dans to Ji Yudongchen, he gave him a very honest price, yet Ji Yudongchen actually still bargained with him, not to mention that he even pretended to be very poor. He decided to definitely extort his rich martial nephews. Chapter 292, The Stingy Dean. Chapter 292 The Stingy Dean. Chen Shang was rather wealthy, but neither Hua Shangyu nor Lu Menger were clear about the exact amount of Chen Zhang's wealth. However, they believed that it would be very difficult for Chen Shang to buy precious spirit herbs in this large-scale auction, because even they themselves were rather doubtful with regards to whether they could grab some good stuff or not. Soon, the auction began. It was held on the 13th and 14th floor of the huge Danxiang Tower. Both the floor were fused together to make a bigger one, but the place itself was not too big, it was just enough for 5,000 to 6,000 people. But then again, those who could attend the auction were not some ordinary characters. This large-scale auction only invited people with a certain position and wealth in the Chenwu mainland. If anyone else wanted to participate in the auction, then they would have to pay a rather huge sum as an attendance fee. If one wanted their own items to be auctioned, they could also enter. At this moment, the auction house was very quiet, everyone here were extremely courteous, and once they entered here, none of them made any loud noise, they just calmly sat on their own seat. In this place, there were some boxed rooms, and only the most respectful group of people in the Chenwu mainland had the qualification to enter inside. That was why the whole auction field was shrouded in a rather serious atmosphere. These deans, even if they had converged their breath, they would still release some spiritual pressure from time to time, making those with not enough strength feel very uncomfortable. Chen Shang and Lu Menger, alongside Hua Shangyu, were inside a boxed room. Chen Shang had covered his face and converged his breath. From time to time, someone's divine sense would swept over them, which made both Lu Menger and Hua Shangyu to feel unhappy. Sister Hua, has my dean arrived? Chen Shang asked. Except for the dean of the beast martial sect, the tycoons of the 8 major righteous sects had arrived. Patriarchs of many famous families have also arrived. Hua Shangyu said. She was responsible for this auction, no one beside her was clearer about the situation. As Chen Shang looked at the bunch of people sitting in the auction field, he actually found Yun Xiaodao, Zhu Rong and also Shui Weilong, all of them had come along with their family's patriarch. Little rascal, do not use your own voice and expose your identity. Those guys all know I and Shangyu are together, if they find you with us, it would make them suspicious. Lu Menger said. Chen Shang clearly understood this. Now, there was a big improvement regarding his convergence of breath. Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu reflected upon this very issue for him. It was mainly done by relying on Long Shuiyi, and at this point in time, Chen Zhang's skill at concealing himself had even left Lu Menger and Hua Shangyu surprised. Unlike before, they could only vaguely sense the situation inside Chen Zhang's body. The auction began. It was hosted by Mrs. Li. First, she courteously welcomed everyone, only then was the first item taken out for auction. The first item turned out to be Chen Zhang's building foundation dans. 10 building foundation dans. In this auction, it is actually the first time for so many to appear. Everybody should be aware of the building foundation dans. I too am not going to be long-winded, the starting price is 2 million crystal stones. Let the bidding begin. Mrs. Li said. 2 million crystal stones. In Chen Zhang's eyes, this amount was a rather small number, however, this was only the starting price, it would certainly slowly increase. Not to mention that the building foundation dans were rare and expensive in the Chenwu mainland. If someone was really in need, even some low-grade profound level dan could be auctioned for a very high price. During the auction, crystal stones were usually used to bid, but during the payment, the buyers could choose to use crystal stones or true elemental dan. Generally speaking, majority would use true elemental dan. 2.2 million crystal stones. A familiar shout entered Chen Zhang's ears. This was Ji Yudongchen's voice. Chen Shang didn't expect that his eldest martial nephew was so lacking in building foundation dans. In his heart, he was secretly happy. After returning, he would immediately accelerate the ripening of the azure profound fruit, and by then, he would definitely be able to refine numerous building foundation dans. He was not afraid of swindling this stingy eldest martial nephew to death. This guy only added 20,000 crystal stones at once. He's really stingy. Last time, he seeked me to refine a flying disc, and he even bargained with me for half a day. Lu Menger's voice was filled with contempt. Chen Xiang was secretly having a good laugh. He didn't expect that his eldest martial nephew was such a stingy guy. The building foundation dans were not only sought out by the big sects, even those powerful families also wanted to contend. Very quickly, the price soon soared to 7 million crystal stones, which meant that each dan were being sold for 700,000 crystal stones each. Chen Xiang didn't expect to reach this price. And the price was still constantly rising. 7.6 million. Ji Yudongshan's heavy voice came over, and this made Chen Xiang even more happy. The whole auction field quieted down. This was almost the price limit. 7.7 million crystal stones. It was a patriarch of a family. If he could buy these 10 building foundation dans, at the very least, they could nurture 2 to 3 true martial realm martial artists, which was totally worth it. 8 million. Ji Yudongshan once again shouted. Chen Xiang secretly clenched his teeth. He was now extremely regretting the fact that he had sold the building foundation dan for just 500,000 each to Ji Yudongshan earlier. 8.2 million. 8.3 million. Quote. After a moment of silence, the bidding once again became heated. If one had more building foundation dans, some talented disciples of theirs could quickly stride into the true martial realm. Not to mention to these families, even in the big sects, there were not many true martial realm martial artists. 15 million. Ji Yudongshan's voice resounded. Along the way, many people had competed with him, but finally, they were all defeated. It was evident that Ji Yudongshan valued these building foundation dans a lot. After a moment of silence, Mrs. Li shouted, 15 million, going once. Chen Xiang, after seeing this, hastily shouted, Sister Menger, increase the price. If it is bought by you, it is still nothing. Anyway, I can return the crystal stones back to you. Little rascal, that guy is your dean. Hua Shangyu was taken aback, but she was very much in favor of Chen Zhang's approach. Hey, of course, I know. Chen Xiang laughed and said. 15 million going twice. Mrs. Li just finished shouting, before Lu Menger said in a light tone, 16 million. Ji Yudongshan secretly clenched his teeth. He recognized that it was Lu Menger's voice. He was considering whether to increase the price or not. 16.2 million. Ji Yudongshan and Wu Kaming both discussed for a while, before they decided to go for it. In any case, the crystal stones would inevitably return to her hands. That was why Lu Menger very freely raised the bid. Not to mention that with the stingy dean, Ji Yudongshan, she could raise the price back and forth. 18 million. Lu Menger's light and sweet voice gave Ji Yudongshan an urge to vomit blood. If he knew Chen Xiang was intentionally making Lu Menger raise the price with him, he would have definitely and immediately spat out blood. This could be counted as violation of rules, but Hua Shangyu just turned a blind eye for it, because Chen Xiang was her own person. However, she didn't expect Chen Xiang would actually be bold enough to ruthlessly swindle his very own dean. Lu Menger kept her eyes on Chen Zhang's gestures and continued to increase the price. 18.5 million, 19.9 million, 20 million. Ji Yudongshan's voice was incomparably heavy, moreover, it already had a subtle hint of anger. Lu Menger gave a white eye to Chen Xiang. She, in accordance with Chen Zhang's intention, raised the price once again. Chen Xiang nodded his head and said with a mischievous laugh, not bad, wait till he had bought them. Afterwards, I will tell him it was auctioned by me, ha ha ha, by then, it will definitely be cool. Both Hua Shangyu and Lu Menger held admiration for Chen Zhang's approach. When they thought of Ji Yudongshan's reaction at that time, they could not help but giggle. Lu Menger didn't raise the price again. Finally, the building foundation dans had been bought by Ji Yudongshan. Hua Shangyu tenderly snorted and said, Ji Yudongshan, this guy, sigh. Isn't it just an extra 5 million? He had actually become angry. Chapter 293, Good Play Staged. Chapter 293 Good Play Staged. The first item auction set off a fierce competition, and because of that, the whole atmosphere of the auction turned a lot more lively. 20 million crystal stones were equal to 4,000 true elemental dan. Even for Chen Xiang, it was not a small number. He had painstakingly refined dans for a whole month, yet its value was only a bit more. But this was under the case that he had the herbs. If he didn't have the herbs, then he would need to gather them by himself, which would be very troublesome. Earning the money of his martial nephew gave Chen Shang a peace of mind. Seeing a happy smile hanging on his face, Hua Shangyu and Lu Menjie finally understood the reason. The more you touch things up, the darker they get. The next item was a 9th level spirit weapon, a sword. Chen Shang and the others was not the least bit interested to this item. Chen Shang already had a divine weapon, the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade, and naturally spirit weapon, would no longer be placed in his eyes. As for Lu Menjie, she was a grand refiner. If she needed a weapon, she would just have to spend a bit of time, and that would be enough. However, to these deans and patriarchs, it was very tempting, because they could use it as a reward to some outstanding disciples, which in turn would motivate the other disciples. For many sects and families, this was a very conventional approach. Very soon, an ardent struggle once again set off in the auction. The 9th level spirit weapon could be considered as a rare thing. Only some famous figures could afford to please a powerful refiner to forge them such a weapon. What was totally out of Chen Zhang's expectation was that the 9th level spirit weapon was finally bought by the Dean of the Lotus Island, Lian Yingxiao, for a sum of 45 million crystal stones. Chen Shang took a deep breath. For the very first time, he understood that the 9th level spirit weapon was so expensive. He glanced at Lu Menjie, while Lu Menjie also turned her head and gave him a wink. This is a rich mistress. Chen Shang lamented in his heart. Lu Menjie was a grand refiner, someone who could refine brilliant equipments. Refining spirit equipments was even easier for her. In addition to her reputation, her refined equipment would be sold at an even bigger price. Chen Shang felt the little fortune he had in his hand was, in the eyes of these deans, nothing. Lu Menjie, by just casually refining a few formidable spirit weapons, she would then have earned more than what he had accumulated for a long time. Sister Menjie, how long does it take for you to refine a 9th level spirit weapon? Chen Shang curiously asked. At the same time, he was prepared to take rather a good blow. Slowest would take 1 month, and my fastest speed would be 10 days. However, I, for a very long time, had not refined any. Lu Menjie leisurely replied. Chen Shang had already made some psychological preparation, yet he was ruthlessly thrown down. Under Menjie, there are 10 outstanding grand refiners. General orders are taken up by them. Menjie now directly take orders of brilliant equipments. Hua Shangyu laughingly said. Lu Menjie nodded her head. The imperial palace of the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire was previously the Divine Weapon sect, and Lu Menjie was supervising many famous refiners. As such, she could get a lot of wealth. Chen Shang, thinking of this, felt dreadful. He looked at those boxes and clasped his fists. He swore that he would certainly transcend these deans. In front of these deans, he knew that he was only an ant. If you could refine a powerful Dan, even Lu Menjie, such a reputed grand refiner, have to curry your favor. Su Meiyao said, as if she could see through Chen Zhang's heart. Yes, even Shuiyi, this little dragoness, also had to curry your favor. Bai Yuyu said. Chen Shang suspected that because of losing her power for too long, she was gradually waking up from the ruthless devil skill. To his surprise, she even knew how to make jokes. Although they were not really funny, this kind of transformation still made Chen Shang and Su Meiyao both very happy. A few other items auctioned were spirit equipments, either weapons or armors. Other items were relatively low price, like the 8th level giant hammer which was sold for 30 million crystal stones. The highest priced item was an armor, a 9th level spirit equipment, fetching a price of 50 million crystal stones. Chen Shang had the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade and the Black Tortoise Adamantile armor. That was why for him, he didn't held any interest for spirit weapons. Naturally, he didn't know their market price. Before, Chen Shang felt that his building foundation Dan was very valuable, but he didn't think that these spirit weapons were more expensive, which made him feel somewhat uncomfortable in his heart. Little rascal, Dans are different from spirit weapons. Dans, once bought, will then be used to elevate the strength, while spirit weapons will stay with a martial artist for a long time. In particular, a powerful spirit weapon could also save their life. Moreover, it would bring prestige to its user, and at the same time, it would also elevate the martial artist's strength by a lot. In this kind of auctions, high-level Dans very rarely appears, because these kinds of things are even rarer than spirit equipments and brilliant equipments. Lu Menjie, noticing Chen Zhang's mood, explained. Chen Shang nodded his head. If an alchemist could refine an even higher rank Dan, the price would then reflect upon it. For an alchemist to become a Dan king, he would waste countless of precious spirit herbs. However, the Dans they would make were things which high-ranking refiners could never match. The next item to be auctioned was the elemental spirit Dan. Chen Shang looked towards Lu Menger, laughed and said, "Sister Menger, I have to rely on you." Hua Shangyu clenched her teeth, "You must make this guy, Yu Zhonglin, bleed." Lu Menger didn't have any good impression towards Yu Zhonglin. Among the 8 major righteous sects, tycoons, those who had good impressions towards Yu Zhonglin were rather scarce, because no one could stand the bad-tempered proud sword sect. They were not even that strong, yet they were extremely arrogant. The elemental spirit Dan was not many, and for these Nirvana realm martial artists, it didn't really held much value. However, for the martial artists of the extreme martial state and below it, the elemental spirit Dan was greatly useful. Chen Shang had also eaten this Dan, which then allowed his divine soul to grow much bigger. It was quite clear how much spiritual power was contained within it. However, the value of the elemental spirit Dan was, at most, 1 to 200 million crystal stones. If one was not in urgent need, generally, after this price, it would not increase. Elemental spirit Dan, this is a kind of Dan which could quickly elevate its consumer's divine sense. This is an ancient Dan, and it has not appeared in the Chenwu mainland for a long time. But with regards to its efficacy, everyone should have a good understanding from the ancient records. Mrs. Li introduced the elemental spirit Dan. Everyone was no stranger to this. If the price was not too high, everyone intended to give it a try. The starting price is 500,000 crystal stones. Mrs. Li's voice had not resounded for long, but the proud sword sect's dean, Yu Zhonglin, could not sit still. 1 million, Yu Zhonglin shouted. 1.1 million. It was actually the dean of true martial sect, Tang Yichao. 1.3 million. The Lotus Islands dean also took part in it. Everyone were all very familiar with this, because just a while ago, he had already bought 2 items. 1.5 million. Yu Zhongling had not expected that there would be so many people to fight for it. He felt a little annoyed. For this elemental spirit Dan, he had waited for too long. Now, everyone contending for the elemental spirit Dan were those deans. Even Ji Yu Dongchen participated in it. They were all curious regarding the efficacy of the elemental spirit Dan. They were rather curious whether or not its efficacy was exactly the same with the ancient records. Very soon, the price reached 3 million. Tang Yichao had already quit. Ji Yu Dongchen, this stingy dean, had also quit. Now, only the Lotus Islands dean, Lian Yingxiao and Yu Zhonglin, were fighting it out. Beside the building foundation Dans, Lian Yingxiao had fought for every other item. His voice was gentle and courteous, very soft, as if money was just a cow's dung to him. 5 million, 6 million, 7 million. Liang Yingxiao was actually in no hurry to settle the fight with Yu Zhongling. After a fierce battle, the price had already reached 9 million crystal stones. 10 million, I want it. Yu Zhonglin's voice was low-spirited, yet furious, and it also had a hint of irritation and arrogance. Chapter 294, Making a Killing. Chapter 294 Making a Killing. An elemental spirit Dan fetching such a price left Chen Shang a bit surprised. Lu Menger hadn't even made a sound yet. This was indeed the enchantment of an auction. 10 million going once, 10 million going twice. 10.2 million. Finally, it was Lu Menger's turn to take the stage. Chen Shang grinned and said, "Want your ass, this is just the beginning." Hua Shangyu also began giggling. She also wanted to see whether it would turn out to be as Chen Shang had planned or not, because, when discussing just a moment ago, Chen Shang had set a very large amount as the limit. Hearing Lu Menger's voice, Ji Yu Dongchen cursed. Once again, it's that woman. Yu Zhonglin, this arrogant guy, is going to suffer. Wu Kaming faintly smiled. Lu Menger's wealth in the Chenwu mainland is second to none. I fear that only the mysterious dean of Danxiang Taoyuan and the dean of Lotus Island could compare with her. 12.2 million. Yu Zhonglin was furious. If it wasn't Lu Menger who was raising the price, he would have already soared. Now, he was testing whether or not Lu Menger was interested in the elemental spirit Dan or not. 14 million. Lu Menger's voice was majestic, yet it sounded so nice. Blue veins bulged out on Yu Zhonglin's forehead from anger, but he still had to raise the price, 14.5 million. From Yu Zhonglin's tone, it sounded as if he was being whipped, forcing him to increase the price, which made Chen Shang and the others directly happy. 15 million. Lu Menger's voice was so calm. She was a reputed wealthy mistress in the Chenwu mainland, and no one was surprised about her wealth. She was a grand refiner. Before, she had not participated in the auction of spirit weapons, so it was also reasonable for her to compete for the dance. 15.3 million, 16 million, quote. Very soon, the price had already reached 30 million. Lu Menger glanced at Chen Shang, only to see Chen Shang shook his head. Last time, this guy wanted to kill me. Continue. TLN, Chapter 259. Lu Menger continued to raise the price, and this left Yu Zhonglin completely furious. However, he could not do anything, because he wanted this elemental spirit Dan. He had waited for more than 1,000 years for it to appear. If he missed this opportunity, only God knows when it would appear again. If his son failed to break through, he would die of old age. That was why he would not hesitate to buy it at all cost. Just a while ago, the price of the 10 building foundation dans reaching 20 million had left everyone surprised. But now, this was only a elemental spirit Dan, yet it could even reach a price of 30 million. This was even more astonishing to the others. Ji Yu Dongchen was now gloating. Now there was finally someone who was going to experience the same suffering as him, and it was even worse than what he had suffered. Lu Menger thought of how Chen Shang was almost killed by Yu Zhonglin, and in her heart, she was also slightly furious, so she continued to raise the price. 59.5 million. With Lu Menger's sweet voice, everyone's heart jumped out of their throat. This was only a low-grade profound level Dan, nothing more, yet it had reached such an exorbitant price. Yu Zhonglin wanted to ask Lu Menger what the hell she was going to do with the elemental spirit Dan. She had even insisted with him to this point. Soon the price would reach 60 million, and since the beginning of this auction, it was the highest priced item. The whole field was quiet. Lu Menger and Hua Shangyu were also a little worried. They were looking at Chen Shang with bitterness. When it was 59 million they already wanted to stop, yet Chen Shang wanted Lu Menger to keep on going. If Yu Zhonglin didn't buy, wouldn't they miss such a good opportunity? He will buy, don't worry. Chen Shang was very calm. If Yu Zhonglin wished to give up, he would have done it long ago. This was related with his son's breakthrough, so he wouldn't hesitate to buy at all costs. Yu Zhonglin could not be called arrogant anymore, because his arrogance had rushed to his head. Now, he had turned supercilious and very rampant. Generally speaking, this kind of people would care so much about their face. Because his son had been stuck in the 9th level of the true martial realm for so long, it would certainly be detrimental to his prestige. If his son could be as talented as before, then it would increase his glory and prestige. Just as Chen Zhang's words fell, Yu Zhonglin clenched his teeth and shouted, 60 million. If his voice could kill someone, his voice would have already killed the entire audiences completely. No one was oblivious to Yu Zhonglin's anger. For just a low-grade profound level Dan, he was bleeding greatly. Chen Shang slightly pursed his mouth and nodded his head in satisfaction. Lu Menger didn't increase the price again. She and Hua Shangyu both heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, they were rather excited. Menger, this guy will definitely hate you, Hua Shangyu said while laughing. I'm not afraid of him. In this guy's eyes, everyone is just the same, his enemies. Lu Menger lightly scoffed and said. Mrs. Li was also sweating profusely. Now that Lu Menger didn't raise the price again, she shouted, 60 million going once, 60 million going twice, 60 million going thrice. Sold. Congratulations to the 6th room's VIP for the successful acquisition of the elemental spirit Dan for 60 million crystal stones. At this moment, the blood and chi of Yu Zhongling was completely chaotic. He almost vomited blood. However, he didn't dare to make trouble here, so he hastily left the VIP room and went to complete the final procedure. Hua Shangyu, at this time, also left, and the auction was also suspended to allow those successful bidders to finish trading. Once Hua Shangyu came back, she handed a storage pouch to Chen Shang filled with 16,000 true elemental dans. His building foundation dans and the elemental spirit dans sold for a total of 80 million crystal stones, which was equivalent to 16,000 elemental spirit dans. Because Hua Shangyu and Chen Shang were acquaintances, there was no charge for Chen Shang. Otherwise, a part of it would have been paid to the Danxiang Tower. In addition to the 14,000 elemental spirit dan he had from before, now he had a grand total of 30,000 true elemental dans, which was equivalent to 150 million crystal stones. The next thing is also very rare. This is neither a dan nor a spirit weapon. Let me present you the martial soul which you all had read in the records. Mrs. Li dismissively said, yet in her heart, she was also very surprised. She too had never seen this kind of thing. On the auctioning platform, there was a table, above it was a transparent bottle, and inside the transparent bottle, there was a massive flame-like thing, scurrying around, looking like a fire sprite. It is actually a fire martial soul. Ji Yudongchen shouted, his voice was unable to conceal his excitement. Who the hell was it? He could actually bear to sell this kind of thing. But this is good too, now we can also see how the hell this legendary thing is mystical. The voice of the Lotus Island's dean was also filled with astonishment. The originally quiet auction seethed in excitement, it turned very lively as everyone was discussing about the fire martial soul. The Danxiang Tower's reputation was very good, and they would certainly not deceive them, that was why everyone, regarding the authenticity of the fire martial soul, was not suspicious. Looking at everyone's current appearance, Chen Zhang's eye happened to shine, because he knew that another ardent bidding battle was going to happen soon. Lu Menger was rather unconcerned. As she took a glance over the book in her hands, she said, "These are things that are going to appear last, they are definitely very expensive." This book was just taken out by Hua Shangyu, and Chen Shang hadn't read it yet. It was an index of things which were going to be auctioned later. The starting price is 10 million crystal stones. Everyone should be clear of the fire martial soul's value, I'll also not say much anymore. Mrs. Li slightly smiled and said, a starting price of 10 million, it was indeed a formidable item. Because Hua Shangyu knew that Chen Shang was lacking in crystal stones, it was better to place the fire martial soul ahead, during the beginning of the final phase of the auction. This would also let Chen Shang raise a large sum, but she still believed that Chen Shang would finally turn to her and Lu Menger to borrow, because a lot of rare spirit herbs were going to be auctioned next. Chapter 295, The Contention of Fire Martial Soul. Chapter 295 The Contention of Fire Martial Soul. Hua Shangyu and Lu Menger were only interested in these spirit herbs. Lu Menger's purpose for coming here was also to gather some spirit herbs. She needed some herbs of high-level dans for herself. For martial artists of her level, only the earth-level dans and above had an obvious effect on her. Not only were these herbs very expensive, they were similarly extremely rare. Chen Shang knew Lu Menger was making preparations for crossing her tribulation, and a dan was absolutely necessary. For instance, a few dans would allow their consumers to quickly restore their power, and some other dans could allow their consumer to recover from injuries in an instant, which while crossing the tribulation, could play a great role. It was equivalent to possessing a few extra lives. Lu Menger didn't know alchemy, she was only gathering herbs. She was planning to seek high-level alchemists to refine them for her, that was why high-level alchemists could not, in a million times, be offended. This was but related to whether they could successfully cross all of their nirvana tribulation and eventually ascend to the heavenly realm. In order to get the dan refined, Lu Menger had gone to ask Elder Dan. Chen Shang, from Lu Menger and Hua Shangyu's relation, could notice that Lu Menger might have asked the Danxiang Taoyuan's dean to refine a dan for her through Hua Shangyu. That was also the reason why their relation was so good. Although those who had martial soul were not very easily seen, they were still there, but they all hid themselves very well, because this was their hidden card up their sleeve. Now, the fire martial soul happened to create an ardent struggle among these tycoons, and very soon, the price rose to 80 million crystal stones. Until now, Ji Yudongchen, Tang Yichao, Liang Yingxiao, all were still competing. At the very beginning, the elder of Beast Martial Sect and Yu Zhongling were also competing, but finally, they eventually gave up. They were both very clear that it would soon reach an exorbitant price. 95 million. It was Ji Yudongchen's voice. Chen Shang could not understand what his eldest martial nephew wanted to do with the fire martial soul. 100 million. Lian Yingxiao dismissively said. The price had suddenly reached 100 million, causing the entire audience to be in uproar. Chen Shang didn't expect that when he had killed the crown prince, he would actually obtain such a precious thing. Why is the Lotus Island's dean so rich? What does he do? Chen Shang asked. The Lotus Island's dean had once presented him a white jade lotus seed, and he also had a very favorable impression of him. It was just that the Lotus Island was a little mysterious. Chen Shang once had checked some information about the Lotus Island, but it was not detailed. The Lotus Island, in the entire Chenwu mainland, is the one influence with the most crystal mines. The disciples of the Lotus Island are all very much specialized in water, hence they could find many large veins in the depths of the sea. They seem to have a secret way to find the veins. Moreover, in the depths of the sea, there are many hidden deep water plants that could replace many rare spirit herbs. As such, the overall strength of the Lotus Island is very strong. Lu Menjie replied. Chen Shang was still a little confused. Why can I not find any information regarding this? The Lotus Island intentionally hid this very fact. If many people came to know about it, many will then squeeze into the Lotus Island. Hua Shangyu explained. Moreover, the major sect's dean, in order to prevent their own sect's disciples to risk their lives for searching crystal mines in the sea, intentionally did not said anything. Lu Menjie sighed. Since ancient times, too many people had lost their lives in the sea, but those who could find the veins was only Lotus Island. That's why the major forces of the Chenwu mainland intentionally hid the information about the Lotus Island. Hua Shangyu casted a glance at Chen Shang. You brat, don't go seeking death. Although the sea may look simple, the danger it possesses not less than on land. Chen Shang laughed and said, don't worry, I now have a beautiful wife, I'll not be stupid enough to die. After speaking, he looked at Lu Menjie, which made Lu Menjie and Hua Shangyu to show him the white of their eyes. Although Chen Shang said so, he still decided to go and have a look. He had the Emperor Crystal, so he was not afraid of not finding any crystal vein. If he found one, he could take out those top-grade crystal stones. 122 million. It was Ji Yu Dongchen's voice. From his tone, he seemed to be full of passion. After all, the fire marshal soul was truly valuable, unlike the previous building foundation Dan, where he was obviously being swindled. 125 million. Lian Yingxiao was not going to give the slightest bit of concession as he continued to raise the price. His gentle voice was rather loud, and it was clear that he was also very much looking forward to the fire marshal soul. Ji Yu Dongchen clenched his teeth and continued to shout, 130 million. Lian Yingxiao knew that the other party was Ji Yu Dongchen, yet it just made his desire to win increase, 135 million. Obediently continue, Chen Shang shouted in excitement. 140 million. Ji Yu Dongchen's voice left Chen Shang a little surprised, for he didn't that expect his stingy martial nephew could actually fight to this step. Lian Yingxiao, unlike before, didn't raise the price immediately. This left the entire audience in secret anticipation. They wanted to know who would eventually win. 140 million going first, 140 million going twice, 140 million. 150 million. Lian Yingxiao suddenly shouted. His voice was still so gentle. Moreover, he raised the price by 10 million in one go, which left everyone extremely amazed. This guy truly have deep pockets. Hua Shang lightly scoffed. Ji Yu Dongchen didn't raise the price again, because there may be better stuff later. By then, such a little difference would render him unable to buy, which was not worth it. At last, the fire marshal soul was successfully bought by Lian Yingxiao. Regarding the fire marshal soul, Lian Yingxiao was very curious. After he successfully won the bidding, he immediately went to pay. When Hua Shangyu noticed Lian Yingxiao leave his room, she also immediately left. Chen Shang took the brochure, which only Hua Shangyu could see. The others didn't know what was going to be auctioned next. This also added up to the mystery of the auction. Chen Shang, after seeing that the next several good items going to be auctioned were spirit weapons, could not help but yawn. Hua Shangyu came back and threw a storage pouch to Chen Shang. Inside it, there were 30,000 true elemental dans, which was worth 150 million crystal stones. Now, Chen Shang had a total of 60,000 true elemental dans. Sister Menjie, if you need a spirit herb, I can give you the white jade lotus seed. I currently have no use for it, and then there is also the hell spirit grass, I can also give you a little. Chen Shang very generously said. After all, she was his woman with whom he had kissed a good several times. Moreover, those kisses were very long and passionate. They had both fallen in love to each other. However, neither of them have said it directly, that was all. However, they both understood the other party's intention. Lu Menjie felt warmth in her heart as a charming smile appeared on her face. She tenderly spoke, not for the time being, if I need it, at that time, you have to remember what you had just said. I will keep it for you. Chen Shang laughed. He had the golden dragon saliva, and he had already planted a large number of white jade lotus seed. By that time, he could have as much white jade lotus seed as he wished. It would be similar to common cabbages. Hua Shangyu pouted with a tender snort. When will I have a man so generous to me? Oh, jealous. Lu Menjie covered her mouth as she lightly laughed. Hua Shangyu stuck out her fragrant tongue. Before she lamented, why don't I have a fairy-like apprentice? Seductress, don't say that. Every time this little rascal sees you, he could not wait to strip off your clothes. You were very tempting to him, however, he could only dare to think, but not dare to do anything. Seeing these two women giving sarcastic remarks to each other, Chen Shang shook his head and sighed. He just continued to look at that brochure. 5-colored profound fruit, this is one of the main herbs for refining the 5 elements true elemental Dan. Chen Shang, in his heart, was shocked, he was also secretly excited. Chapter 296, Resurrection Grass. Chapter 296 The Resurrection Grass. Chen Shang continued to read the brochure, and the more he looked, the more excited he became. His breathing became very short and rapid, and at this time, Hua Shangyu quickly seized the brochure. Little rascal, are you stunned? Hua Shangyu grinned and asked. Chen Shang was indeed stunned. At the same time, he was still in doubt as a frightened look appeared on his face. Which idiot is actually willing to take out an earth-level spirit herb, and even a brilliant equipment? Hua Shangyu suddenly giggled and said, which idiot is selling the earth-level spirit herb? I do not know. However, I know that the idiot selling the brilliant equipment is your sister Menger. Lu Menger snappily snorted. The fact that she was selling brilliant equipment was nothing surprising, a lot of deans knew about this. Not many individuals were able to refine brilliant equipments, which was why they were rather more expensive, even among the other various things up for auction. Next, we are going to auction a spirit fruit called the lightning element fruit. This fruit is very strange. If it is eaten by a martial artist with lightning attributed true chi, his lightning attribute true chi will increase by a large amount. In addition to this fruit can also explode. If used improperly, it will be very dangerous. Mrs. Li continued to explain the usefulness of lightning element fruit, and other important details. Lu Menger shook her head, useless. Hua Shangyu said, some people always think of auctioning some strange and mystical things, praying they'll bump into an idiot and then it can be sold at a very high price. The instant Chen Shang caught sight of lightning element fruit, his eyes started to shine. Su Meiyao had told him just a moment ago that this lightning element fruit had a big magical effect. To be specific, it was a herb used for refining a dan, a kind of dan which was not eaten but rather used to attack. Once it was thrown out, it would release a very strong power, capable of blasting off a big mountain. However, other herbs were also needed before such a strong dan could be created. Heavenly lightning pellet, even a 9th-level true martial realm martial artist would not dare to meet it head-on. After acquiring this lightning element fruit, you will also need a profound lightning seed before infusing a large amount of lightning attribute true chi, only then you will be able to successfully refine it. With just a pellet, you could blast a 5th-level true martial realm martial artist into pieces. Bai Yu said, she and Su Meiyao could be described as someone who had went through fire and water together. From their childhood to adulthood, these two had rarely been separated, that was why she too had an understanding of the Dan recipe. This could blast a 5th-level true martial realm martial artist into pieces. This kind of thing left Chen Shang rather shocked. It was also the first time he came to learn of a type of dan which could be used like that. If you had a few pellets, you could even blow up a 9th-level true martial realm martial artist. However, the effect wouldn't be that large against an extreme state martial artist. Su Meiyao said. Chen Shang had already decided after he had bought the lightning element fruit he would plant them after returning to the Elder Dan courtyard. Upset as 1 million crystal stones. Mrs. Li shouted. Nobody actually wanted to bid. They had heard Mrs. Li narration, the usefulness of lightning element fruit was too small. Moreover, there was a limit of increasing the lightning attribute true chi. The fruit's effects weren't that good, it was just relatively rare, nothing more. 1.1 million, Chen Shang changed his voice and shouted in a low-spirited voice. If he had used his own voice, many would definitely and maliciously raise the price against him. By then, a heavy loss would be inevitable. There was an idiot who was willing to buy this thing, everyone felt that might as well bought some true elemental dans. That would have been more cost-effective. Little rascal, is this thing useful? Hua Shangyu asked. She knew Chen Shang was not someone stupid. Chen Shang didn't answer, he was waiting for Mrs. Li to eventually drop the hammer. No one raised the price, so Chen Shang very easily bought the lightning element fruit. He laughed and said, this is a good thing, but I can't show it to you right now. Wait for me to collect another herb, then I'll let you know I haven't spent these crystal stones in vain. It was also normal for some upsetting things to occasionally appear in the auction, however, under ordinary situations it would just be bought by an idiot. Next is a high-grade earth-level spirit herb, the resurrection grass. Even though it is not as good as white jade lotus seed and hell spirit grass raw, the resurrection dan that could be refined after combining it with other herbs is far more precious. Even if a Nirvana realm martial artist suffered heavy injuries, taking a single resurrection dan would immediately restore them to their pinnacle state. Mrs. Li introduced the next item. Chen Shang had read the brochure just a moment ago. He had not expected someone would actually sell the high-grade earth-level resurrection grass. It was a crystal-clear grass that contained a unique energy. If eaten raw, one could quickly restore some injuries, but it was far better used as a returning life dan. Among the high-grade earth-level dans, the resurrection dan was the most famous healing dan, basically exclusively used by Nirvana realm martial artists. After achieving that kind of level, the body and the soul both were very strong. Only this level of spirit dan could be effective on them. For the true martial realm and the extreme state martial artist, the dans used were from low-level profound level dans to low-grade earth-level dans. As for Nirvana realm martial artists, it was middle-grade and high-grade earth-level dans. Of course, heaven-level dans were also useful, but they were very scarce. Sometimes even if a Nirvana realm martial artist had it, they could not bear to use it. There is no upset, everyone can start at your own discretion. Mrs. Li slightly smiled and said, 10 million, Lu Menger lightly shouted. Seeing Lu Menger taking action, Chen Shang shook his head and sighed. He knew he didn't have any chance. Lu Menger wanting the resurrection grass was also very normal, as she was going to cross her Nirvana tribulation. If she had the resurrection dan, it would be equivalent to another life. You also want it? Lu Menger asked. I do, but Sister Menger needs it more than me, I just want it for the sake of collection. Chen Shang laughed and said, if Lu Menger wanted, he would not hesitate to give even the hell spirit grass and white jade lotus seed. 13 million. Ji Yu Dongchen also participated in the bidding. Although these deans didn't refine dans, they all knew very well the value of the resurrection grass, they all knew very well. Hua Shangyu just glanced at the side, she knew Lu Menger was going to cross the tribulation, so she didn't bid. Not to mention fighting with Lu Menger would make it so the auctioneer selling the spirit grass would make a large final profit. Soon the price hit 90 million. I must win. Lu Menger slightly frowned, then she continued to raise the price, 95 million. It was only a spirit grass, nothing more. Moreover, the alchemist would not necessarily be successful in refining the dan. The risk was truly very big, yet these tycoons still vied with each other. 100 million. Lian Yingxiao didn't back down, even if he knew he was facing the divine weapon Heavenly Empire's Empress and extreme martial sect's Ji Yu Dongchen, he was going to struggle no matter what. Chen Shang just dumbfoundedly stared onwards. He was never able to figure out from where the price was being increased, just as anyone's voice befell, it would be immediately followed by another increment. In the blink of an eye, the price had already reached 200 million. Only Lu Menger and Lian Yingxiao adhered till now. All the other deans had already been defeated. Although everyone had the capital, their capital was not as much as these two. In the Qinwu mainland there are 5 plutocrats, Lu Menger, Lian Yingxiao, Elder Dan, Ji Yu Dongchen, and finally our mysterious dean. The extreme martial sect had occupied 2 seats, while the women occupied more than a half. Hua Shangyu laughed and said. Lu Menger continued to shout, 230 million. 240 million. 250 million. Quote. Both were increasing the price by 10 million after 10 million. After all, the fight was happening among the 2 plutocrats, everyone did not find it strange. Chen Shang had a complete new outlook. He had a total fortune of 300 million left, but this small resurrection grass had already surpassed this number. 330 million. Lu Menger's voice was still dull and filled with majesty. Lian Yingxiao no longer continued, this was almost his limit. After Lu Menger had successfully acquisitioned the resurrection grass, she immediately left the room, and bought back the resurrection grass. Chapter 297, Dragon Soul Part 1. Chapter 297 Dragon Soul Part 1. Chen Shang, while looking at the exquisite grass on his palm, was extremely shocked in his heart. This was the resurrection grass worth more than 300 million crystal stones. He could clearly feel the peculiar life force inside it. By chance, if the alchemist failed in refining, won't more than 300 million crystal stones go down the drain? Chen Shang asked as he returned the resurrection grass to Lu Menger. Whatever, in any case, I have already been accustomed to it. Lu Menger lightly gave a sigh, it was quite clear that she had lost a lot in many years. In Chen Zhang's mind suddenly flashed an idea. Sister Menger, can you let me take care of the resurrection grass? I'll plant it inside the extreme martial mysterious realm, there it can grow even better. For now, it should not be a problem for you to not quickly give it to some alchemist for refining. Lu Menger thought for a moment, nodded her head and said, it's not a problem, however, you cannot eat it, this is very important for me. While speaking, she then handed the resurrection grass to Chen Shang. This kind of forthrightness caused Chen Shang to feel a little surprised. He didn't expect Lu Menger would so easily put the resurrection grass into his custody. This made him feel warm in his heart. Next there are 2 5-colored profound fruits, which is the main ingredient for refining the 5 elements true elemental Dan. From what I remember, the 5 elements true elemental Dan have not appeared in the Chenwu mainland for a very long time. Mrs. Li introduced another item, the 5 elements true elemental Dan, which among the low-grade profound level Dan, was on par with the elemental spirit Dan, whether it was the difficulty in refining it or the rarity of its herbs. As Mrs. Li introduced the next item, Chen Shang was secretly excited. He already had the 5-colored lotus, so if he bought the 2 5-colored profound fruits, he would then have to only search for the colorless spirit grass and the 5 leaves grass. By that time, he would have all the herbs of the 5 elements true elemental Dan. Starting price is 2 million crystal stones, everyone is free to raise the price. 2.2 million, Ji Yu Dongchen too was interested in this thing. 2.3 million, Chen Shang immediately shouted, from looking at the starting price, the final price would not be too high. He had 300 million crystal stones, he had the confidence that it was more than enough. 2.5 million, Lian Yingxiao, this wealthy guy, would always increase the price rather by a large amount. Chen Shang said in a heavy tone, 2.6 million. 2.8 million, Ji Yu Dongchen actually increased the price by 200,000. Chen Shang felt rather strange, he knew that his martial nephew was quite stingy. Chen Shang simply didn't shout, he was going to let the both of them compete to the end, in that way, he could save a bit of his strength. After a short while, under Lian Yingxiao's and Ji Yu Dongchen's competition, the price had reached 13 million crystal stones, which had already surpassed the value of the 5-colored profound fruit. However, the 5-colored profound fruit was already very rare, and even though its rank was very low, some collectors would definitely buy it rather at a very high price. Ji Yu Dongchen no longer continued to bid, and just when Lian Yingxiao was secretly feeling proud, Chen Shang shouted, 13.05 million. Humph, for someone more miser than your dean, you had the nerve to call such a price. Hua Shangyu ridiculed, this was also the very first time the price rose by such a small amount in this auction. Moreover, the price came from someone from the VIP box, although no one knew who it was. Chen Shang was unlike those deans, who had a bunch of people earning wealth for them. Not to mention there were no restrictions regarding the increment in price, and it was quite obvious he was indifferent regarding such actions. No one knows me, Chen Shang pursed his lips and said, the misers are rather thick-skinned, I'm not like each and every one of you, a local tyrant. TLN. The local tyrant Tu-Hao word here used, in the ancient times, referred to, the rich and powerful local tyrants as they were called or the bully in the countryside. But nowadays the very same word is used as an internet slang referring to someone who had been from poor background but made wealth rather quickly but don't have the manners or sophistication to go along with their money. Here, the meaning is the former one. Lian Yingxiao also felt funny, someone actually raised the price with such an amount, it was the first for him encountering such a kind of person. He truly wanted to have a look who was it on the other side who could occupy a VIP box, yet could be so stingy, that he even left Ji Yu Dongchen, this famous stingy figure, behind. 14 million, Lian Yingxiao didn't even bat an eye when he raised the price. 14.01 million. Chen Shang only increased it by 10,000. 15 million, 15.01 million. The auction house suddenly burst into hustle and bustle, there was actually someone so thick-skinned to increase it by such a meager amount. After a while, 21.01 million. Chen Shang lazily shouted. Lian Yingxiao no longer continued. He felt that it was a little boring, although he was rich, he would not so casually spend. This was only a herb for a low-grade profound level Dan, the price had already reached far more than its own value, and if this continued, he was going to lose a lot. As long as it was a spirit herb, in Chen Zhang's eyes, it was not a loss, because he could grow a large number of them. Finally, he acquired it for a value of 21.01 million crystal stones. The next thing turned out to be sword, it was a brilliant level equipment. The brilliant equipment were the same as spirit equipment, they were divided into 9 levels. The 9th level brilliant equipment was already the topmost equipment in the mortal world, and now a 4th level brilliant weapon just happened to be auctioned, the meteor sword, which was posted by Lu Menger. Because she had just refined it, it was still unranked. Only 4th level, yet it made the heart of many sword users among the audiences beat rapidly. The brilliant weapon they were all using were of 4th or 5th level, nothing more, but this kind of thing was, the more the better, they obviously wanted to include it in their bag. After Mrs. Li introduced the meteor sword, the bidding began directly. What left Chen Shang surprised was that even Hua Shangyu and Wu Kaming participated among with the others. Everyone in the VIP box beside Chen Shang and Lu Menger heedlessly increased the price. The temptation of a 4th level brilliant weapon was truly amazing. I had spent 8 years to finish this meteor sword. Lu Menger's tone was filled with a kind of sad mood. She had personally refined this brilliant weapon, moreover, she had spent so many years of time. The price kept on soaring and soaring, 10 million upon 10 million, sometimes it was even tens of millions. In the blink of an eye, the price had already reached 500 millions. Chen Shang, after seeing this, secretly clucked his tongue. However, he knew that if it was the Resurrection Dan being auctioned now, the increment definitely would have been more intense, because it could rescue a Nirvana realm martial artist from his grave. 800 million, 900 million, 1 billion, not long after, the price finally broke the billion mark, and yet the intense competition was not showing any sign of stopping. 1.5 billion, Lian Yingxiao shouted. The gentleness and courteousness in his voice had already disappeared, it was replaced with an incomparable excitement. Hua Shangyu slightly sighed, I give up, I'll just gather material for Menger to refine. The auction house suddenly quieted down. Lian Yingxiao, in one breath, had added 500 million, which left the other tycoons a little unable to bear. No one fought with Lian Yingxiao again, and finally, it was bought by Lian Yingxiao for 1.5 billion. After this, Lian Yingxiao rarely participated in any other bidding battle. Apparently, after buying the meteor sword, he didn't have enough courage and energy anymore. Subsequently, Lu Menger fiercely entered the bidding battle. She bought a 9 elements flower, which was also the main herb for refining the Resurrection Dan. For this item, she had spent 350 million crystal stones, and thereafter, she once again spent 500 million crystal stones to buy a stone, and 700 million crystal stones to buy a big piece of yellow jade. There were not many herbs in the auction, which was quite disappointing for Chen Shang. He only bought the 5-colored profound fruit, which made him feel good. The next is a bizarre piece of stone. This piece of stone can release a very intense spiritual pressure, however, it is currently sealed. Even extreme state martial artists, under this spiritual pressure, are unable to bear. The starting price is 50 million crystal stones. Dragon Soul, Long Shui exclaimed. Chapter 298, Dragon Soul Part 2. Chapter 298 Dragon Soul Part 2. Dragon Soul, for a dragon, it was the most essential element. As for Chen Shang, it was a little hard for him to believe that a dragon soul would appear in the mortal world, even more so was the fact that it was sealed inside a piece of stone. A stone exuding azure light was placed upon a table on the auctioning platform. Once this piece of stone appeared, everyone felt an inexplicable spiritual pressure. Even the charming eyebrows of Lu Menger and Hua Shangyu were frowning, this kind of feeling was making them a little uncomfortable. But on the other hand, Chen Shang didn't felt anything. Very overbearing spiritual pressure, what the hell is inside this stone? Lu Menger's voice was deep and low, as well as solemn. She realized that there was nothing ordinary about this stone. Long Shui said to Chen Shang, you must definitely buy this stone, your azure dragon slaughtering devil blade is lacking an overbearing dragon soul, and that is why it cannot be considered as a divine weapon. Before, Su Meiyao had also said that after he had fused with the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade, she had always felt that it was lacking something. For example, his black tortoise adamantine armor and Lu Menger's vermilion bird tender thread could be infused with their users and could transform at ease. However, his azure dragon slaughtering devil blade was nothing like them. What would be the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade like if it was complete? Chen Shang had no idea, but now he had an opportunity to make the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade complete, and that was only possible if he could buy this dragon soul. These deans increased the price one after another. In the previous bidding, majority of the deans had bought some relatively expensive stuff, so they had already spent a lot of amount of money, yet Chen Shang, after noticing them once again so ardently enter the bidding battle, the pressure upon him multiplied. Is it really a dragon soul? Chen Shang using his divine sense exchanged with Long Shui. Yes, moreover there is also no consciousness. It should have fallen from the heavenly realm, this guy's body must have been destroyed, and then sealed inside the stone after its consciousness was erased by someone. However, how it fell in the mortal world, I have no idea. Till now, I also don't know why I was born in the mortal world. Long Shui said. Because these deans had all felt that spiritual pressure, they believed that the mystery behind this stone was marvelous. Even if it was sealed, the pressure was already so strong. If the seal was dispelled, then perhaps even they would have a hard time bearing that spiritual pressure. Lu Menjie also joined in. 600 million, Gu Dongchen shouted. Before, he had also bought a lot of things, but his pockets were still so full, such that even Lian Yingxiao paled in comparison. Hua Shangyu, at this time, left, because she too had bought some things a moment ago, and the owner was urging her to pay quickly. Chen Shang only had a little money, which was simply not enough, however, he must win at all costs. Although at this moment, Lu Menjie was planning to relinquish, spending so much for an unknown piece of stone was simply not worth it. Sister Menjie, you must win that piece of stone. Chen Shang threw Lu Menjie a storage pouch. Inside the bag, there were true elemental dans worth 300 million crystal stones. Why? Lu Menjie, noticing Chen Shang was so serious, realized that the piece of stone was rather very important to Chen Shang. Sister Menjie, both your vermilion bird tender thread and my black tortoise adamantal armor can infuse with our body, but the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade can't. That is because it is lacking a weapon soul. In that stone, a powerful soul is sealed within, and it is very suitable for fusing with my azure dragon slaughtering devil blade. Chen Shang quickly explained. Hearing Chen Zhang's explanation, Lu Menjie, who was a grand refiner, could not help but be surprised. But she was not a least bit suspicious regarding Chen Zhang's word. She sweetly smiled, leave it to me. 620 million. Lu Menjie had obtained Chen Zhang's 300 million crystal stones, and at this moment, she was brimming with courage and energy, not to mention that if she had bought the stone, Chen Zhang's azure dragon slaughtering blade could become stronger. Lu Menjie had always felt grateful to Chen Shang, because he had made her fuse with the vermilion bird tender thread. In addition, he had also passed her the vermilion bird divine exercise, and this kind of powerful exercise had allowed her to make great progress in regard to her cultivation in flames. Later on, Chen Shang had also made her fuse with a fire spirit. As such, what she had obtained from Chen Shang could not be measured with wealth. Later on, Sister Menjie must help me fuse that soul into the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade. Chen Shang laughed and said. Lu Menjie, for the very first time, heard of something about weapon soul, and this gave her a great inspiration. If she could fuse some spirit beasts or profound beast soul with the equipment when refining, then the brilliant equipments and the spirit equipments could become even more powerful. She was very much curious how Chen Shang knew about these. This knowledge was obviously not from the Chenwu mainland. Now that he had the help of Lu Menjie's cauldron, Chen Shang heaved a sigh of relief. Soon, Lu Menjie finally won that piece of stone at the price of 980 million crystal stones. With this, the auction also came to an end. After Lu Menjie obtained the stone, she quickly left with Chen Shang. While only God knows where Hua Shangyu had gone to, she had not returned at all. Lu Menjie, after touching the stone, became even more excited. She could determine that there was certainly a very powerful soul inside, though she didn't know whose soul was it. It was so powerful, that even across 2 layers of seal, it could still give such a mighty spiritual pressure. In the divine weapon shop, Lu Menjie, with Chen Shang, entered a private room. She tightly laid down a few barriers. This was also what a Nirvana realm refiner was most specialized in. Lu Menjie had a very solemn look as she put on a black tights, while Chen Shang also took out his azure dragon slaughtering devil blade. Whose soul is it? It is actually so powerful. Lu Menjie began to examine the spirit patterns on the outer seal of the stone. With one glance, she noticed that the outer layer was added later on. Dragon soul. Once she heard these 2 words, Lu Menjie's tender body slightly quivered as her face was filled with astonishment. Really? Lu Menjie took a long deep breath. Chen Shang continuously nodded his head. Yes, otherwise, how could it be worthy of my azure dragon slaughtering devil blade? Are you prepared? Once I dispel the outer seal, a powerful spiritual attack will definitely break out. I'm worried you will not be able to endure. Lu Menjie said. According to Mrs. Li's introduction, even extreme state martial artist would not be able to endure the spiritual pressure released by this stone. Chen Shang nodded his head, as he placed the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade on the ground, then sat down cross-legged. Lu Menjie also gracefully sat down while facing Chen Shang, with the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade in between them. Lu Menjie closed her eyes, and a golden brilliance burst out of her finger as she lightly stroked that green stone. Suddenly, an azure light flashed out from the green stone as Lu Menjie uttered a dull and tender shout. At the same time, Chen Shang a sharp pain in his head, but soon it was all right. You're unexpectedly all right. Lu Menjie was once again shocked. She originally believed Chen Shang should have become unconscious. Hey, I'm not that useless as you imagine. Chen Shang laughed gently. Lu Menjie thought that Chen Shang was not so common, for she knew that only someone with a very powerful divine sense could be able to bear the spiritual pressure emitted by the dragon soul. She knew that this spiritual pressure was something a true martial realm martial artist could not resist. Lu Menjie could now surely say that Chen Zhang's divine sense was very, very strong. Otherwise, just like her, he would not be able to sit without feeling anything here. I'm going to begin. As long as the stone is broken, the final seal will be broken. This piece of stone is commonly known as the sealing soul stone. After it is smashed, the seal will break open. Lu Menjie solemnly explained. While speaking, she took that piece of stone and smashed it against the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade. Chapter 299, Complete Divine Blade. Chapter 299 Complete Divine Blade. After the stone was broken, an even fiercer spiritual attack wave invaded their conscious. Instantly, both Lu Menjie and Chen Shang uttered a sharp scream at the same time, but very soon it came to pass. Sister Menjie, force the dragon soul into the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade with your divine sense. It was Long Shui imitating Chen Zhang's voice, for he was still half-dazed at the moment. Lu Menjie soon recovered and immediately followed Long Shui's instructions. With her divine sense, she pressed upon that azure fire-like thing winding around the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade, but was met with a very intense resistance. Is this really okay? Lu Menjie hesitated because the resistance of the dragon soul was very strong, making it difficult for her to suppress it. Use your vermilion bird tender thread. Not only can it not wrap and suppress material things, it can do the same to the soul. Long Shui imitated Chen Zhang's voice once more and explained what to do. Lu Menjie suddenly felt Chen Shang had the atmosphere of an expert. He unexpectedly knew so many things, all of which she had no idea of. It should be remembered that she was the most powerful refiner in the entire Chenwu mainland. At this moment, a transparent ribbon appeared on Lu Menjie's jade-like palm. With her control and manipulation, this transparent ribbon transformed into countless very fine transparent threads, which then nimbly entwined around the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade, and soon completely covered the blade. At this point, Lu Menjie felt the process was a lot easier. Moreover, she could also sense the dragon soul drilling bit by bit into the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade. The stabbing pain in Chen Zhang's mind had disappeared by this point. His complexion was still a little pale. At this moment, Lu Menjie was looking at him like she was looking at a monster. She was now even more curious about Chen Shang. Little rascal, you have a lot of confidential secrets. Lu Menjie smiled, before she extended her hand and stroked Chen Zhang's pale handsome face. Chen Shang reached out his hand in return and pressed upon the back of her hand, making her tender hand glue closely to his cheek. With a look of enjoyment, he said, Sister Menjie, there are some things which I can't tell you, please do forgive me. Of course I know that, I'm not stupid. Lu Menjie lightly sighed and replied. She then looked at the vermilion bird tender thread entwined around the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade. Suddenly, the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade started shaking. Lu Menjie quickly withdrew the vermilion bird tender thread, before the dense spirit patterns on the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade started shimmering in azure light. Fused, but with my current strength, I still can't unleash the true might of the dragon soul in the blade. Chen Shang said with some regret, before the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade turned into an azure light, and flashed into his body, before appearing in his hands. The Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade slowly turned smaller until it resembled a dagger, a very small dagger. Now it could truly be said that Chen Shang could control the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade. When this blade was being refined, a section was left for the weapon's soul, that's why it can so perfectly fuse with the dragon's soul. It seems I better research more regarding a weapon's soul. Even though it can make the weapon and its user fuse together, it is only possible with the support of a ton of spirit patterns. Lu Menjie said in a low voice, as thoughts surfaced and started racing in her mind. Chen Shang looked at the Lu Menjie's pondering appearance and was enthralled. He could not help but reach out and stroke her beautiful face, which made her lightly spit in response. Thanks a lot Sister Menjie for helping me buy such an expensive thing, I'll definitely pay you back. Chen Shang slightly smiled and said. At this moment, the two of them were very close to one another. As Chen Shang deeply inhaled the sweet fragrance wafting off of Lu Menjie's body. Meanwhile, Lu Menjie could feel a heat emanating from Chen Shang. Both of them could not help but stare into each other's eyes. Slowly, they unconsciously moved in closer before both of their lips came in contact and sealed each other's lips. Before long, their tongues were intertwined, embracing the other tightly as they began passionately kissing. After their kiss, both of them remained closely embraced, enjoying the wonderful lingering sensation. Lu Menjie's face was slightly flushed. Last time she said this would never happen again, yet she was here. Thinking of this point, she lightly pinched Chen Zhang's arm. Remember to pay me back. Although I don't really care about it, I do care about your future. In the future you might not need to rely on me, you are going to become even more stronger. Lu Menjie gently said as she lied in Chen Zhang's embrace. Even though Chen Zhang's response seemed light-hearted, he knew it was very heavy. Lu Menjie was not asking him to repay, but rather take responsibility. Besides the 9 elemental flower and the resurrection grass, there were 2 other main ingredients for the resurrection dan, which were the white jade lotus seed and the hell spirit grass, but Lu Menjie did not ask for those 2 things. Obviously she was thinking for his sake. Sister Menjie, give me the 9 elemental flower. Chen Shang released Lu Menjie from his embrace, and gently said while stroking her cheek, gently. Lu Menjie nodded her head, she didn't ask the reason, and simply handed over the 9 elemental flower to Chen Shang, don't lose. Chen Shang kissed her cheek, and said with a laugh, I'm going to look for Dean, and make him angry. Lu Menjie dispelled the barrier, allowing Chen Shang to leave. Thinking of what just happened a moment ago, her complexion turned incomparably complex, before she let out a helpless sigh. Chen Shang was now in possession of all the main herbs of the resurrection dan, even though it was only 1 set, it was enough. With just 1 set, he could grow and multiply it into a vast amount, it was just that he currently didn't have the strength to refine it. That was a high-grade earth-level dan. Chen Shang was still far off from being able to refine that level of dan. Ji Yu Dongchen and Wu Kaming were living in a small yet a very beautiful residence. This residence didn't have any formation, so Chen Shang directly leapt over the wall. Just as he stepped inside, a handsome and suave man appeared in front of him. It was Ji Yu Dongchen. Young martial uncle, what are you sneaking about for? Ji Yu Dongchen was just a step away from slapping the intruder, before noticing who it was. At this point Wu Kaming also arrived, while Chen Zhang's complexion turned completely serious. I have a very important matter to tell you, Chen Shang said with very solemn look. Ji Yu Dongchen quickly entered a room with Chen Shang. Although his young martial uncle was far worse than him in strength, he definitely had a lot of means. Moreover, he was a very ruthless person, which was why Ji Yu Dongchen and Wu Kaming both held deep admiration towards him. Young martial uncle, quickly speak, Wu Kaming urged. Suddenly, a bright smile appeared on Chen Zhang's face. He sipped a bit of tea before stating, eldest martial nephew, the 10 building foundation dans you bought in the auction was refined by your martial uncle. You're truly generous, buying just 10 dans for 20 million. From what I remember, you paid me the same amount for 40 dans last time, that's all. As expected, after hearing Chen Zhang's words, Ji Yu Dongchen's face immediately turned green. Although he was a little angry in his heart, he knew the future would be tragic. He had believed Chen Shang had not gone to the auction. But now that he knew the price of a building foundation dan, a higher price needed to be paid later if he still wanted to buy them from him. Elder martial nephew, you're truly formidable. During the bidding battle, even though you were being suppressed by Lu Menjie and Lian Yingxiao, you still had a lot of wealth. You even managed to fight with them until the very end. Chen Shang came next to Ji Yu Dongchen and patted his shoulder. Ji Yu Dongchen's face was deathly pale. Chen Shang now knew he was a plutocrat. The next time Chen Shang would sell things to Ji Yu Dongchen, he would definitely swindle his money back and then some. Wu Kaming was laughing on the side. Ji Yu Dongchen had always been feigning poverty, it was precisely to make Chen Shang sell the dans cheaply to him. However, during the auction, he had basically revealed his hidden abundant fortune. Chapter 300. Lian Yingxiao. Chapter 300 Lian Yingxiao. While looking at Chen Zhang's proud appearance, Ji Yudongchen secretly complained in his heart. Last time, Chen Shang had sold him 40 building foundation dans. That was the first time Ji Yudongchen had ever bought so many at once. Before, he was only able to buy one or a few dans. That was why he was sure Chen Shang was in possession of many ingredients for refining the building foundation dans. As the dean of the extreme martial sect, the development of the extreme martial sect was his most important responsibility. And, in order to quickly elevate the strength of his sect's disciples, dans were a necessity. Even though there were a lot of extreme martial sect disciples, the true martial realm martial artists were extremely scarce. If he had a large number of building foundation dans, in a short span of time, it would become possible for the 10th level mortal martial realm martial artists with potential to advance into the true martial realm. Young martial uncle, do you still have building foundation dans? Ji Yudongchen asked. I don't have any more, wait for me to look for you again. Chen Shang had them without a doubt, but there were not many in his hands. Moreover, if he sold them to Ji Yudongchen now, he would not get a higher price. Lian Yingxiao and his son are coming, he is definitely going to show off. Wu Keiming suddenly spoke. At this time, Chen Shang also felt Lian Yingxiao's aura coming over. Before, Chen Shang was sure Lian Mingdong and Ling Yingxiao had some relation, they were most likely father and son. But now that he heard Ling Yingxiao was coming with his son, he could not help but be a little surprised. Who is his son? Is he formidable? Chen Shang asked. An alchemist at the 5th level of the true martial realm, he is not low-key like his father, on the contrary, he is an arrogant guy born from Lian Yingxiao's 7th wife 100 years ago. Among the numerous sons and daughters of Lian Yingxiao, he can be considered to have excellent qualifications. Ji Yudongchen immediately replied. Chen Shang was surprised, how many women does Lian Yingxiao have in the end? He's actually able to walk with his son, yet you two are actually still bachelors. Too useless, even your martial uncle have a wife. It seemed that this gentle and courteous Lian Yingxiao actually have so many women. Chen Shang now suspected that Lian Mingdong might not have received much attention in the Lotus Island. But Lian Mingdong's character was very similar to Lian Yingxiao, it was quite clear that Lian Mingdong had inherited more of his father's blood. Lian Yingxiao have tens of women, however, now only 9 are left. The others have not died, but they actually had illicit affairs with someone else and ran away with them. Ji Yudongchen laughingly said, young martial uncle, you can't look down upon me. My woman is just no longer in the Chenwu mainland, that's all. She's in another mainland at the moment, and it might take some time for her to come. The other mainlands were all far away beyond the sea. Chen Shang also wanted to have an opportunity to travel to those places. He looked at Wu Keiming, then asked while laughing, little Baldy, what about you? Wu Keiming pursed his lips and said, I'm only an old man, who is going to look at me? Lian Yingxiao arrived with a handsome and proud man, who had sword-like eyebrows and star-like bright eyes. This man was precisely the favorite son of Lian Yingxiao, named Lian Changyan. Lian Yingxiao has really treasured his son enough to point where he didn't send him to the southern wasteland. Chen Shang gave a dismissive glance at Lian Changyan, then respectfully saluted towards Lian Yingxiao. Changyan, this is the top youngest expert of the extreme martial sect, as well as the top youngest alchemist, Chen Shang. You must have heard of his name, come and greet him. Lian Yingxiao smiled and said. Chen Zhang's reputation was very great, in the entire Chenwu mainland, most of the martial artists had heard of him, and he was truly worthy of the title, the teenage genius. Lian Changyan was secretly envious of Chen Shang though, he was known for relying on his father, while Chen Shang relied on no one. Not only did Chen Shang had an astounding reputation, he had also obtained the favor of Shui Shenxian from the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire, becoming husband and wife. This was what made Lian Changyan most envious. Lian Changyan had inherited his father's romantic character. Once he had paid a visit to the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire with Lian Yingxiao, and at that time, he had seen Shui Shenxian. He very much desired to have such a fairy-like girl, but he didn't expect that she was already engaged to Chen Shang. Although it was the first time Lian Changyan met Chen Shang, he very much hated Chen Shang. However, in order to not lose his father's face, he politely greeted. Chen Shang, I heard you like to gamble. Whether it's fighting or alchemy, are you willing to gamble with me? We can decide who is going to win and lose in the alchemy tournament. Lian Changyan asked. Although a smile was hanging upon his face, his tone was full of provocation. Chen Shang shook his head, which in turn caused Lien Chengyan's complexion to change. Could it be that you're looking down on me? Since it was just a battle of words between youths, Ji Yudongshan and the others did not meddle in the slightest. They were just at the side, watching the good show that was unfolding. When Lien Yingxiao heard Chen Zhang's refusal, he felt very uncomfortable in his heart. Last time, he had given Chen Shang a white jade lotus seed, and now he was actually not giving him face. Are you afraid I can't afford to bet with you? How about I bet a white jade lotus seed with you? Lien Chengyan dismissively said with a look of pride, as though possessing the white jade lotus seed was very amazing. Lien Yingxiao had not spoken of the matters that had occurred in the southern wasteland, and he had even ordered others that they could not speak of it. That was why Lien Chengyan wasn't aware of anything. Brat, isn't it better to give a little bit of face? That is the white jade lotus seed we're talking about. If you can't afford to follow up, I and junior brother can help you. Ji Yudongshan also didn't know what was wrong with Chen Shang. Chen Shang had actually refused to take such a big gamble. Ji Yudongshan also didn't want Lien Yingxiao to hate Chen Shang. Chen Shang sighed in his heart and kindly asked, Brother Lien, what level of alchemy tournament are you going to participate? Naturally the middle rank. For my age, participating in the middle rank tournament is already good. You are also an outstanding young alchemist, how about you and me compete? Lien Chengyan replied. He very much wanted to defeat Chen Shang, and it was clearly implied from his tone. Chen Shang wryly smiled and said, I'm afraid I will have to disappoint Brother Lien. It's not that I do not want to compete with Brother Lien in the alchemy tournament, it's just that little brother is going to be participating in the high rank tournament. High rank tournament? Ji Yudongshan, Wu Kaming and Lien Yingxiao, all three of them, were suddenly surprised. Only a 5th or 6th level alchemist could participate in the high rank tournament. In other words, was Chen Shang already a 5th level alchemist? Impossible. Chen Shang, do not refuse my challenge with this kind of reason. At the very least, a 5th level alchemist must be able to refine 3 kinds of low-grade profound level dans. Just to be successful in one kind, countless number of herbs are needed for practice. If it's for 3 kinds of dans, it will be even more difficult. How can you be able to refine 3 kinds of low-grade profound level dan at 20 or so years of age? My teacher is considered to be a genius, yet it had taken him 200 years to become a 5th level alchemist. Lien Chengyan furiously shouted. Oh, Chen Shang exclaimed, then he took out a piece of jade card. On the jade card, there were 5 light golden lines, and this was precisely the proof of being a low 5th level alchemist. On it, Chen Zhang's name was also written, and on its back, some words had been carved in blood. They were the signatures of the examining alchemists. Ji Yudongshan was the first one to grab it to look. Seeing the 4 signatures, he frowned while saying, unexpectedly, you were personally examined by Hua Shangyu. As far as I know, Hua Shangyu is an 8th level alchemist, and the other 3 alchemists are also rather famous. All of them had once helped me refine dans. This jade card should not be fake. Lien Yingxiao was stunned. Lien Chengyan's face had also turned red. Just a moment ago, he claimed Chen Shang was lying to him, yet Chen Shang had taken out the most indisputable proof. At this moment, Lien Chengyan couldn't wait to drill a hole on the ground and bury his head in shame. At the same time, his hatred for Chen Shang had increased even more. Lien Yingxiao took the jade card from Ji Yudongshan's hand. From one glance, he knew that it was true. Even he didn't expect that Chen Shang actually had such a monstrous talent. Chen Shang was not even 30 years old, yet he was already a 5th level alchemist. Chapter 301. Fire Dragon Blood Lotus.